welcome to Doors and Corners, a sci-fi and fantasy film commentary podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Zach. And every Friday we sit down and watch a science fiction or fantasy film and give our 2 cents on its quality, production, story, and trivia.
We watch the film together, but without sounds or visuals provided to avoid copyright issues. But if you do have access, we encourage you to join us and follow along.
Here, we like to keep things casual, and there may be discussions of spoilers or sensitive materials or language. But we do try and keep things clean and family-friendly. Ultimately, the goal of this podcast is to create the experience of us all sitting down and watching this movie together.
So get ready to hit that play button, because we're about to get started.
Damn Doors and Corners, I mean, that's where they get you.
Welcome back to Doors and Corners. I'm Brian.
Corners. I'm Zach.
And tonight, we have got, after 3 excellent animated films, we are jumping back into live action with something that is like almost live action anime in a way, but like gloriously so, with Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim. And the plot being very simplistic and kind of grounded in the way that it was written it's like a live action anime, but makes sense.
Yeah, this is a weird movie, it's a fascinating way to make something that feels very fantastical and insane, but also grounded at the same time. He was able to hit that weird balance and a lot of it comes down to the effects, which I want to talk about a lot, the way that things move and just the way things are presented, which I will be nerding out on quite a bit as we watch this.
Oh, goodness, yes, me too. For anybody who hasn't seen Pacific Rim, it can very easily, succinctly be summed up as giant robots beating up giant monsters.
They're kaiju, right? Kaiju? That's like a special name?
Yes, they are kaiju. Kaiju is literally a Japanese word. It means strange beast.
Mm.
But this is also the reason why the word kaiju wasn't used in the 2014 Godzilla or any of the follow-ups, because they didn't want there to be any confusion. But technically the brands are now owned by the same company, and there's been talk about a potential crossover.
I mean, I wouldn't mind to see a Jaeger fight Godzilla. I think Godzilla would trash it, but, it could be, didn't they? I did not see the newest Kong movie, but didn't he have some, like glove thing? Like somewhat mechanical.
Yes, he did. And in fact, he had so much of a glove that the schematics that they used for it were a straight up schematic for the Gypsy Danger arm that is seen on a screen in this movie.
Really?
Yes.
Yes. I have.
There's a couple things like that. And by the way, that movie was trash.
Oh, yeah,
Godzilla vs. Kong wasn't good.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, the other one was worse.
But to say, the reason I haven't seen it is not an accident. The trailers where I was like, this doesn't look,
Godzilla King of Monsters, fantastic movie. 2014 Godzilla, fantastic movie. Anything that came after those that's all like bright neon and Godzilla's moving around like a house cat, trash.
Yeah, see, I need to watch King of Monsters again because I saw it in theaters. I was kind of lukewarm on it, and I haven't watched it since. But since then, you've talked about it highly enough where, like, whenever we get to those, I'm like looking forward to revisiting that because not that I think it's a masterpiece, but like I don't remember it making an impact in me, and so I'm like curious to see it with you because I know that you hold that in a decent category for that kind of film.
When I found out how many people really disliked it, I was kind of shocked. I really liked it. I liked the effects. There's some things about it that I really don't like that this film also repeats, which is a pet peeve that I have about how fighter jets work.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You will hear me rant about that shot of the F-22 flying through it's like, what the frick? There is not a military in the world that would do that. But it looks cool on film, so we're going to make the U.S. Air Force seem like incompetent idiots in order to justify the plot. The what?
Those were also SAS.
The SAS don't fly F-22s, do they? I'm pretty sure.
Special Air Service?
Special Air Service is Special Forces. That's like, you're talking about the RAF.
Yeah, RAF. Yes,
the Royal Air Force. I'm like, the SAS is like the Delta Force of Britain.
I knew what I was thinking.
Just not say brain, mouth.
But
connected?
Yes, there's supposed to be a combination of British and American troops. But if we ever get to freaking Captain America: Brave New World, such a cool action sequence. I don't know if I have ever hated a cool action sequence more than Captain America versus a whole bunch of Chinese fighter jets.
The immediate comparison in my mind is I can't even tell you which movie because they are all mashed together in my mind, but several sequences out of the Transformer films are so bad with fighters.
Oh my goodness. Let's not even start that because I will go off.
And I am
Go off. And I actually like those movies.
Well, I'm going to say
Some.
I will unironically defend a lot of Michael Bay's work, but once you get past the first one of those films, not really.
I will defend quite a bit of the third film. But that's about it.
Okay.
Oh, and the Bumblebee movie, which he wasn't even involved in, which explains why it was good.
Yeah, I need to see that. He's frustrating though because he is a genuinely talented guy that just doesn't know when to not do certain things. He reminds me a lot of Zack Snyder.
I was literally going to say I call that Zack Snyderism.
It really, but Bay is way before Snyder, so Bay gets to.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
but
again,
Snyder is a little bit more like overt with it.
Yeah, although I would argue that Bay has more good movies than Snyder does.
Oh, I agree. The Island, man. The Island.
Well, and his early stuff. I mean, he opens with The Rock.
Oh, The Rock.
Even the first Bad Boys. As much as I'm not a big fan of some of the humor, like it's a well constructed film. So, anyway,
I've seen him.
Yeah.
Pacific Rim.
But Pacific Rim, we really do need to have two podcasts. One where we just talk about movies, and one where we watch them. Which we're going to watch this one. Why don't you hit us with those spicy IMDb facts?
The Sweet Deets segment. So this is, of course, Pacific Rim, which came out in 2013, which is 1 year before the 2014 Godzilla reboot. It's PG-13. It is 2 hours and 11 minutes long, but pretty much almost an even 2 hours because the credits are significant. We have it directed by legendary and now Oscar-winning Guillermo del Toro, written by Travis Beacham and Guillermo del Toro, starring Charlie Hunnam, Idris Elba, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Rinko Kikuchi, Charlie Day, and Burt Gorman, as well as a number of other people.
You forgot one big one. Or
Ron Perlman?
Did you say him and I just blanked out?
No.
Okay, Ron Perlman. I have a crush on that man.
Oh, I totally understand. War never changes.
Yeah, and he's actually quite fun in this movie too. I love his shoes.
Oh, so good. He kept those shoes.
Nice.
Like, that's a thing, because apparently his now ex-wife turned them into some sort of, like, cool high heels.
Yeah, well, there's so many details that we'll get through. I mean, the world building and the aesthetics of this movie is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely is. And, unfortunately, to a detriment, those same world building and aesthetics ended up being kind of improperly transplanted over to the current MonsterVerse Godzilla movies. Literally direct inspiration of, like, I wanted it to look like Pacific Rim, so I put it full of neon.
Yeah, and this movie uses that well. I mean, that neon-soaked kind of Asian vibe works so well in this film. And yeah, let's get into this because we got plenty of movie to talk through.
Got it.
All right.
Yes.
I don't believe there's any other version of this, right? There's just the one version?
Nope. One version.
All right. Well, we're going to hit that play button in 3, 2, 1, go.
Play. Yeah. Apparently the writer first came up with this idea while he was trying to write a completely different movie and went out for, like, a stroll. And it was an early morning. It was a beach in Southern California. And he was just looking into the mist, and he was just like, man, what if a big monster came out of there? And then what if we had, like, a defense system of, like, a big robot to fight it? And he sat there and just envisioned this thing and went, I need to write this movie.
This was also kind of during that time when Legendary Pictures was really trying. Yeah, they were doing more than just your they did a lot of DC stuff, obviously, but they were also trying a decent amount of somewhat original stuff.
Mm-hmm. I usually hate movies with opening narrations.
I do
Pretty
like
much when a movie has this type of opening narration, I assume it's gonna be crap.
I do like the nice like star to undersea transition. I just think that's kind of it's creative.
Yeah.
I will say, so Charlie, and this has been said by other people, his accent is kind of strange in this film. He's supposed to be American.
No, it makes zero sense.
But it's as an American, I don't know where he's from in America.
I'm like, are you from Alaska?
Maybe. Here we go.
Oh,
What?
Egregious.
And it's like, so, okay. An F-22 has a single 20mm cannon, not twin. It is the last resort. It also can be fired effectively from much further away than that is.
I would like to point out something really fast.
Yes.
It had like 35 miles and 3 cities destroyed before they were able to destroy it. Canonically, according to the expanded universe of this, it essentially died right about where I'm living right now.
Nice. So it kind of followed like
And
from
they
the Bay
nuked it.
Area, like up the river to Sacramento.
It destroyed Oakland and it destroyed Sacramento.
Nice. Well, Sacramento can go.
Which
Nobody
destroying
would miss
Oakland,
it.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So-
they really deliver a ton of information really fast
Oh,
in
yeah.
this sequence.
I do enjoy the aircraft carrier shot there.
The whole holding hands thing feels like it's out of a commercial.
Yeah.
But apparently Guillermo del Toro's thing here was to decrease the militarism of it and have it more of just like people working together, scientists and engineers and like less military people, which is why you don't see any of the pilots in heavy duty like military garb or
Yeah.
dress uniforms or anything.
They've got their little suits. I mean, again, very kind of anime inspired suits.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
it's
Evangelion.
there's part of this that immediately, I do get a little triggered because it's a ridiculous solution, right? Like you would just build freaking big guns and tanks and like better air to ground missiles. I mean, we would just adapt our current military. The idea of building mechs is honestly just stupid as a true defense idea, but it would make for a much less cool film. So I don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you could do all kinds of really interesting ways to write around it, but in our current system, there's really no like distinct way that it would work that way.
Well, the mechanical the the things you would have to invent and create in order to make a mech this size move and function correctly, like technologically, would be so much more work than simply coming up with a warhead, missile type that would be effective, or a tank shell that would be effective. Like developing a munitions type would be a much more straight line as far as a solution. But again, that's a very boring movie, especially visually. That's a very boring movie. So I am here for it, and I have to like turn off that part of my brain because that's not the kind of movie this is.
Well, I know that one of the reasons that they talked about it that way is that they needed to make it mobile, in order to move it around quickly. Because anything that was stationary,
We have things called aircraft.
yeah.
Already.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty
Oh
adaptive.
yeah, no, I totally understand.
I'm just being a rat right now.
Yeah, because like aircraft are susceptible to some of the powers that they have. Like they have one later that has an EMP, things like that. They wanted stuff that was really.
Yeah. So okay, are they breathing liquid? What is this?
I think it's just supposed to be a filter. I think it's like a UV filter.
Okay, because it looks like they had yeah, because there's nothing wet, but it looked like it was full. Man, okay, I do I love the suits. I love the vibe. I'm here for the music. Like this is where like I need to just
Music's
not even
so good in this
worry
thing.
about the practical side, because again, it's not that kind of a movie, and it's fine. Not every movie needs to be. I love all this. I love the gearing up, that very mechanical feel of all this. You're seeing how things go together. Like even their suits going on. You know, the backs.
Do you know how much of these suits are CGI?
Very little, right?
None of it. They even built these entire sound stages.
Well, yeah, I do know that the whole soundstage on the gimbal thing is. I saw that.
Is real, and apparently it was torture. It was like really warm. It was really scary because they built this entire thing on a soundstage. Everything's on pistons. They're throwing stuff at it. A whole bunch of them end up getting exposed to water at various points throughout the entire thing. So there was this risk of electrocution. They had to make sure that all of the little light up greeblies were properly insulated to prevent it from shorting out and potentially electrocuting people. It was nuts.
Yeah.
But he really wanted that practical effect and that practical feel. And I genuinely believe that these are some of the best practical suits ever designed in a movie. Because they move so well. They look so good. And I geek out about them. And poor Charlie Hunnam after Tron Legacy, where he had to be in those suits too, guys just had it rough when it comes to costuming.
Yeah, I'm done. But no, these suits do look really good. But I mean, Gypsy Danger. I mean, obviously, this is like the hero Jaeger. It's amazing. Like it just looks cool. I don't even know how else to like. I mean, and when we get to the other Jaegers, I mean, a lot of them look very cool, and I love how they make them distinct and kind of give them the flair of the culture they come from. But it's just Gypsy Danger. It's like such a weird, not a weird. Again, it's a wonderful combination of very kind of slick and streamlined, but also very mechanical and tanky. They hit that balance between it doesn't look like the Russian one, later, but it also doesn't look like the Australian one. What's that one called?
I know what you're talking about.
It strikes the balance well. Yeah,
I knew that you would like it because of its origins. Do you know it was designed to look American and move very American? They wanted it to move like a gunslinger.
Well, and what's funny, it does though. Like Go ahead, I'll stop.
It's designed to evoke World War II American fighter planes.
Nice. Okay, I hadn't thought of that.
Like the coloration and some of the general shapes. Like, look at that thing.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of the World War II, but yes, it definitely, and it's odd because you think like, okay, what's an American aesthetic? But this is an American aesthetic.
This was like my first introduction to Idris Elba. He'd been in the crime drama Luther that was like the Sherlock series. If Sherlock was really, really sad all the time,
it's a good series.
It is quite a good series, but. Man, he's kind of it's hard to watch because it's so dour.
I couldn't binge it because it's depressing to watch. But yes, it's anyways, Idris Elba's epic.
Yeah, fantastic. This was kind of his first push into like American and Western, like American notice, I guess. This is supposed to take place, by the way, in 2020. The first of the kaiju appeared in 2013, according to the narration at the beginning. And this is supposed to be in 2020.
And it's
different 2020.
And I like the idea. This was, I forget which YouTube video I was watching that kind of talked about this, but, that after that first defeat, the impression is given that basically humanity really was kind of whooping on the kaiju. Like they were winning for the most part and kind of had the system down, almost like routine. Like you can tell when they're going out with the Jaeger, it's, they're not expecting to have a problem with this. But then this is like a big turning point.
Yep, this is the first appearance of what they call a Category 3 kaiju. And it's kind of interesting. They had over 100 to like 115 different designs for Jaegers, and they had to cut it down. So they cut it down one at a time through votes, and they just like voted them down to the 5 that you see in here.
So
they got to use a whole bunch of others later.
One thing I've never completely understood, and I'm curious if you know the answer to this. Is the Jaeger floating right now?
I don't think so.
Because it's not standing on the bottom of the ocean. It's not that tall.
I agree.
I mean, you know what I
It's
mean?
probably
Like,
on a
what,
sandbar.
they're like, what, 350, 400 feet tall? Something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Like, one, I mean,
Also, the captain of this little boat here, I've seen him in things, and I realized that he's in all kinds of stuff, including The Expanse and some Star Trek and stuff like that. He pops up in those stuff, and he just has one of those faces, and I'm like, I recognize that guy because he's in a whole bunch of little sci-fis all the time.
yeah,
Random comments.
okay, so right here, I mean, we're going to talk about this many times through this. This movie, possibly better than any other film I've ever seen, gets the physics of the size correct.
Square cube law.
Which one?
Square cube law.
Oh, yeah.
Determines how
Yes.
big of
Okay.
something
I thought you were
is.
saying the name of a film, and I'm like, I don't know what you're saying.
No, it's a physics principle.
Yes, but it's you know, and I think Quarter Crew has done an episode on this, correct? Whether or at least they've referenced this before.
Yeah, I
about
think so.
this movie, like, shows how you do this. That it looks wrong because it would be wrong. It doesn't matter how powerful you make it. It doesn't matter what, sci-fi BS you come up with. A massively large object will not move like a little thing. It's just not how it works.
Yeah. Which is just one of those things about specifically Godzilla versus Kong and its follow-up, what is it, New Kingdom or something like that? Where they suddenly have these huge beasts moving agilely and quickly. And that's also something that the sequel to this movie does that makes the sequel so much less than this one. Because it's so sad. This movie just does it better than anybody.
Yeah.
I'd also like to note this arm with the plasma cannon on it. They have this whole thing to it as they do the plasma cannon because its blood is toxic, and they have as many weapons as they can that cauterize, so that way it doesn't bleed as much. Bye, buddy.
Yeah.
Man,
So
that would suck. Like
that. So
his brother just died.
yeah. Oh, it's rough, and just the idea here, and I'm glad, but they did at least explain to you why it was such a big deal. That one pilot just can't do this, or at least
Yeah.
generally speaking, can't. Ooh.
I do like that idea that like these things are so big and complex that you need to share the neural load. I think that was a really smart little idea.
Yeah. Well, and it's also not crazy. Like
Yeah.
this would be, I mean, such an incredibly complex machine. I mean, the computing power, the mechanical power, just what it would take to make this work. Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a very like kind of classic anime scene here. You got the slow charge, you've got the yelling, you've got the way the sparks are flying, tiny bit of slow motion, but it looks dang good.
Yeah. Looks great.
Yeah.
This particular kaiju, by the way, is named Knifehead because all of the kaiju have names. And Guillermo del Toro and the writers and all that stuff, they specifically named them. And in lore, it's Idris Elba's character, Pentecost, who gives them names, which is why they all tend to be kind of British slang.
Nice.
I also found out that there's some people who will do breakdowns of this movie that won't actually say the name of the robot of the Jaeger, Gypsy Danger, because some people of Romani descent find the word gypsy to be offensive.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a good
gypsy
shot.
as a lifestyle is seen as great shot, trailer shot if I recall.
Yeah, I think it walking in the mist. Oh, it's just
There's a very Iron Giant feel to that for some reason.
Yeah. Well, one of the references I heard, and I agree with, that this movie shares one of the big reasons why the first Iron Man worked so well and a lot of it comes down to just how it you really felt the realism of everything here. I mean, he's crawling out of this. You can see the wires. It's so mechanical. You believe it. You believe what you're seeing because it looks real. It looks like it was thought about in terms of how it works, and how it functions, and how it walks and moves, and how its arms are and the first Iron Man, his suit looks so good because it's so mechanical. I mean, I love the later kind of nanotech. It's very cool. It's very slick, but there is something undeniably special about kind of the early highly mechanicalized or
Visceral.
mechanized version.
Which is something that, like, I have very little interest in the time of recording upcoming TV show Ironheart. But one of the things I do acknowledge is that they are going back to like more practical suits and practical effects and things like face plates closing and taking a lot of time to get into the suits and stuff, which I like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Don't think the show looks good. I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, this whole movie has a very tactile feel to it. As much as there's a lot of magic, level, kind of
physics.
Yeah. Cool credit sequence there. Just the whole idea of opening into a rift in the ocean.
There's some really. What do you think about the whole like interdimensional rift thing instead of just like aliens or something like that?
Well, I actually, I don't know if this would have made the movie better if they had really gone more into, what do they call them, the precursors or whatever. Like the kaijus are just like clone soldiers from the beings on the other side of the rift who were basically using them as weapons.
Yeah. The precursors.
Yeah. Part of me would have liked to have seen more about that and have it explained a little bit better, but I also don't know if that would have made the movie any better. The movie's staying a little bit more just focused on, we just want an excuse to see robots fighting monsters. And we don't need to do more than that. Like there probably is some wisdom to that, and it, without seeing that version of the film, you can't know for sure. It really depends on. I mean, Del Toro is a good enough filmmaker. I think he could have done it, but I also am fine that they kept it very streamlined and simplified, and didn't get into the minutia of like sci-fi world building kind of stuff.
Which the sequel did, and also the guy who wrote the movie did as well, and they have they talked about wanting to do so much more that unfortunately they were unable to do. And I had the same feeling. I wanted to know a little bit more about them as well.
Yeah. Like I agree. I do want to know more, and I left this movie curious, but I'm also not convinced it would have made the film better. But
here we have the anti-kaiju wall, which just I love the way that they do this, in that they like everybody knows this is a stupid idea.
Yeah,
and it's just like, ugh. This guy, have you seen this actor and stuff?
I recognize him. Like I know I have, but I couldn't name a film I've seen him in.
Like it's practically a cameo of him in here as his friend. He's he was a regular on the sitcom According to Jim Belushi's family sitcom thing. Typical like dumb dad type of stuff, and he's the weird uncle. And then he's on the show The Orville for the first season. He's the chief engineer.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. This is supposed to be 5 years later, which would put this smack dab in the middle of 2025.
Hey, it's his present day.
Time of recording.
Yeah. I really love the ascent here, though. I'm sorry, the descent, I mean.
Yeah.
He does on this this I-beam coming up here in a second. It looks cool.
I like this little like proton pack looking thing, and the rope spooled on the bottom.
Yeah. I guess this is also, so Charlie Hunnam, is it Hum? Charlie Hunnam. Because he had, Sons of Anarchy had kind of, was at its peak right about then, and he, I think he'd done something with Guy Ritchie, but this was kind of, and he had done Tron before this, right?
Yeah, he had done Tron before this. The thing with Guy Ritchie was an attempt to start a major franchise surrounding King Arthur.
No, I'm not thinking of the Arthur movie. He did like a British mob movie with,
Oh,
So he did too
no,
with Guy Ritchie, but that's right. He played King Arthur. But yeah, I actually like him very much, but I'm also not sure he's like movie lead material, and I don't mean like in a mean way
his
because I
acting
like him.
range isn't great.
Yeah, like he's better than
He has best
Jai Courtney.
friend vibes.
Like to me, that's the standard of a guy who they tried to make a star who never should have been one. And I like Charlie Hunnam better than him for sure, but he just doesn't have that charisma of. I'm trying to think of like a Matt Damon or a. Who's another good example of like a.
Matt Damon is a good way to put it.
Well, because he's actually not super charismatic. He's just a good actor. I mean that as like an insult. Like I wouldn't think of describing him as charismatic.
Oh, Matt Damon?
Yeah, he's just a really good.
I'd actually agree. He just comes across as like a dude.
Yeah. But
Really
anyways,
curious about his next movie, time of recording, which is Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey.
yeah, it'll be interesting casting choice. It's a so it's that they're doing. Okay, what do you think about in general using kind of news segments to fill in the audience as to what's happening in the greater world?
I think that
segments.
it can work well. It can work. A lot of times it doesn't, but this is one of the movies that I'll point to where it's done well. That Stryker Eureka segment where they're like showing off. It tells you a couple things all at the same time. One, the kaiju threat's still present. The Jaegers are still effective. It introduces these other characters that you're going to meet. You know that one asshole is going to be a problem. It also tells you that the wall is ineffective. That was a huge info dump that was really easy for everybody to understand nice and quick. And it makes sense that they'd be watching the news. They're in essentially a break room.
Yeah. I was in my mind for some reason what I flashed to in this film was Edge of Tomorrow. Also like heavily used kind of like news footage to introduce that film. And I actually adore that movie, but I think this movie almost did the news part better.
Yeah. One of the ways that I actually weirdly like it is documentary style, like in Interstellar. I actually really love that in particular. It's just it's rare to do it.
I love the names of everything. It's just the Shatter Dome. It just feels very. We're just coming up with cool names.
Yeah. Welcome to Shatterdome.
So the scientists that get introduced here, I love them.
Mm-hmm.
So Charlie Day is the main one, but who is the other one who I actually think of more from The Expanse season 4 now than anything else?
Oh my God, you're right. He's so good in that. He's creepy.
Yeah.
So in the movie here, his name is Gottlieb, but the actor's name is Bern Gorman.
Bern Gorman.
Like that sounds like a villain, doesn't it?
It does. Well, he actually has, because I know in the I hate the Halo TV show, but I know he actually he was a villain in that also. At least the first season. I never saw the second season.
Yeah, he was a character by the name of Graff, if I recall correctly.
But he was.
I remember him from something else.
Well, I remember
Torchwood. That was it. Torchwood.
Okay. Yeah, it was a BBC series. But
yeah,
after this film, when I heard that he was cast as the main antagonist in season 4 of The Expanse, which is the adaptation of the 4th novel, Sibyl Burns, which is my favorite book in the Expanse series, I was worried because
it's a Western.
Well, yeah, I like Westerns, but it's also a good book. But I was worried because
so evil.
All I knew of him in this movie was just that he played this kind of nerdy scientist. And gosh, when I saw him then, I'm like, no, he is menacing. And he is calmly, menacingly evil. And he was so good.
He was in The Dark Knight Rises. He played he played like a low-level antagonist who gets baned.
There he is.
Yeah, he gets he gets exiled by Cillian Murphy.
Charlie Day.
Yeah.
I will say that the two of them, they do have a good play off each other. Just to sign, they're playing, your kind of cliche type of characters, but they do it well. It's genuinely funny. They have some great scenes throughout this film.
Oh yeah, they work really well as a playing off of each other duo. I really don't like Charlie Day, to be honest.
Oh really?
Well, the only thing I ever saw him in, like most people, is Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And I have a visceral hatred of that show. Like, if you want a show where everyone is genuinely evil and nobody is good, it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's like they took Seinfeld and put it on meth.
Okay. See, I've never seen the episode. I'm very aware of it. I know it's, oh my gosh, why did I just forget his name? Famous actor. Penguin. What is wrong with me? Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito.
Wow. Yeah, I'm very aware of it, but I've never seen an episode of it. See, even here, like, with it, Charlie Day, Charlie Hunnam's, like, walking around, like, kind of holding his belt buckle and just, I just don't, I don't know.
You don't buy it?
It's very just meh. Like, he's one of the, I hate to say it, I feel like he's one of the weaker parts of this film.
I could see that, especially his weird fluctuating accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, his walk is a little too exaggerated, even right there. Like,
well, he's trying to swagger.
Freakishly long legs.
Yeah, but he's like, I feel like he is, because he's British, correct? Am I not crazy about that?
I believe so. Yeah.
He seems like somebody trying to do a version of American that's just not very good. Like it's an odd interpretation of, I don't know, maybe to the rest of the world we look like that, but it's like, as an American, he seems off, like somebody who's trying to act like an American who's not.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the weird things about this movie, is that they try and do a lot of things to be like, oh, this is the American team, and they were in Alaska, and we're trying to appeal to the Americans, and American main character. But nobody in the production of this movie is American.
Yeah.
United States American.
This whole sequence, though, as we're going through and seeing the different Jaegers and kind of talking about them a little bit and seeing the crews, it is very cool. These Jaeger designs are all, I don't think there's a weak one. The Russian one looks...
Oh, they're so good. Even when you get into the sequel, that is a just kind of terrible movie, the Jaegers are still really good designs.
Okay. I love his dog. Now, I will say I recently rewatched the Caravan of Garbage episode about this, and anybody who doesn't know that show, those are Australian men who do that show, and they were very much mocking the Australians in this show. They basically went on this whole thing where, yeah, they're definitely, and these two actors who are playing Australians are not Australian. Oh, one of them is American. Which, it's like, okay, see, you can just, it's an odd thing that we do.
Yeah.
No, really I do think
strange.
that it's the closest to the Gypsy Danger is the Australian one in terms of its overall design, which makes sense. It's the most Western country in this group of countries, but it still definitely has, you can tell it looks newer and sleeker. The face has the same kind of gold faceplate, a little more, almost makes me think of kind of Master Chief-esque kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a bit more streamlined because it's supposed to be newer.
Yeah, it's like a Mark IV.
Yeah, Mark IV. So when you saw it earlier, they were kind of like moving quickly. Or during the newscast in which you saw it fighting, you could see it moving with a lot more agility than the others. So it's supposed to be smoother.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of videos that kind of talk about behind the scenes, like why the different Jaegers were like really good at what they were, like kind of the technology behind the scenes, the development that went into them, and I thought all that was cool because the guy in me that enjoys the mechanical explanation for things was like, oh, okay, so that's cool, like why the type of motors that were developed, the type of power plant it has, and that it's more of a digital, but then that makes it susceptible to the EMP later. I mean. And then, the Russian one's like the oldest one, but the Russians build their stuff, not the most sophisticated, but undeniably, reliably and tough.
Yeah.
I remember seeing
it's built like an AK-47.
Yeah. Well, I remember this was, I believe like a History Channel documentary way back in the day. And there was some military advisor he basically described it. He said, Russian fighters are designed to be serviced by an 18-year-old with a ball-peen hammer. American fighters are designed to be serviced by a guy in a white lab coat who had to go to MIT. They both work really well, but very different design philosophies. And that almost seems like it kind of looks like the Jaegers have a similar vibe to them in this film.
This is another one of those movies where they do really well with putting things going on in the background.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
all the time, like How to Train Your Dragon last week, but you see a lot, especially when these two are together. You just had Charlie Day back there, and he was doing something, and he was kind of mocking him a little bit. This was also like peak, let's have a cool hollow table time. Everything had cool hollow tables.
Well, do you remember the year this came out again? This is
2013.
So this is a year after Iron Man, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I really was. You're right, because I mean that was such a big Tony Stark thing too, the whole hollow table thing. So yeah, this definitely was. I love the they got like a Jaeger brain just sitting here and just like, it's a very active movie. This movie doesn't really slow down, even when we're in between action scenes. There's just a frantic energy to the whole thing that kind of just keeps you going.
Yeah. Now, one thing I'll say, this was the year after the Avengers, not the year after Iron Man.
Oh.
So
No,
that was a
yeah,
mistake
Iron Man
I made
was
there.
2008, right?
Mhm.
And Avengers 2012. So yeah, you're right. Sorry, but yeah, I mean, starting with Iron Man for the next like 5 or 6 years, yeah, holograms.
So
all over.
there's
the place.
actually a hint here, because they were setting up the sequels right here, where whenever he looks away from the brain, a little tentacle thing reaches out towards him. The idea is that they kind of want people to interact with them. They want to kind of psychically link to the natives, humans, which we see later because it ends up turning him into, spoiler warning, him being the villain of the sequel because he's been infected by the precursor bad guys via drifting with them.
Kaiju groupie. Yeah, it's good.
I'm just watching again because
Yeah.
I'm looking at the things in the background.
Yeah, he this. I mean, you have kind of the scientist for scientific sake, and then the one who just he loves the science, but he also wants to be somebody. This is
Scientists who want to be somebody are both like terrible and awesome.
Cool. Yes. Well, they usually get some cool things done, but they're also the villains of many, many stories for a reason.
Yeah. Oh wait, you're talking about fictional stories.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Um,
Okay, no, I can't
what do
say
you
her
think
name
of the
either.
character
Could
of
we just
Mako?
call her? Is it May? I was going to call her Miko, but that's the actress, right?
No. The character's name is Mako.
Mako. Okay,
Mako Mori.
Mako. Was
Or
she?
Mako?
Was she in the X-Men Wolverine? Was she the
No.
Is that somebody else? I
Yeah.
really feel bad now because I have trouble.
You should.
I should. I am genuinely sorry. I do not mean this in any flippant way.
No,
I like her.
I'm just bullshit.
Oh no! I mean, like, but there's people who like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like, no. I like it's. I wish I was better at that. But no, I like her in this movie. She has I'm very happy they did not make her like a cliche Asian girl type character where she's got. They didn't go the anime route with her, and I'm genuinely glad because I think that she's interesting. I like her backstory. I think that when she's with Charlie Hunnam, I think that he's better when they're in scenes together than when he's by himself.
Yeah,
And,
they do actually have some legitimate chemistry, despite kind of clunky performance.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't erase the things I was talking about earlier, but I think that she makes it better than him by himself for sure.
Yeah. She's supposed to be playing a young girl in this. She's supposed to be around 19 or 20, I think.
She doesn't look it.
With
Definitely in her mid late 20s.
Oh no, she's in her early 30s.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say she's beautiful, but she definitely doesn't look like she could be a teenager still. Sorry.
I mean, also, have you noticed the whole Asian girls with blue hair archetype that you tend to find?
I mean, it's I'm not sure if I
don't know why,
if
but
I would have pulled out blue specifically, but like
No, it's blue. It is specific.
that's what they use a lot. I must not pay attention, but I find, I mean, I'm definitely not above admitting that I generally find Asian women very attractive, but I'm glad that she doesn't, like, right here, like, she's wearing, like, they give him the gratuitous scene here of, like, the shirt off, and he's in good shape. I'll happily
Yeah,
admit.
I think the most sexual thing that they do with her in terms of her appearance is like a tank top.
Yeah, like they really avoid that, and I'm glad. It's
Same.
it's
a really good decision.
this movie did not need that.
No, the last thing it needed was gratuitous fan service sexuality.
Well,
Which I don't know if Guillermo del Toro's ever even done that. All of his movies seem
it's
to
not
be
his style.
really wrapped up on that, with the single exception of, actually, it's not even fan service. I think it was almost anti-fan service in Shape of Water with their sex scene, because that was one of the most uncomfortable and gross sex scenes I have ever seen in a film. Because you have two people who just aren't attractive.
I still have not seen the
One
movie.
is a fish.
But
It's
she's
just weird.
But she plays well. They're if you're gonna say you have this intelligent, brave, and kind of feisty, not feisty, but she's not somebody that's just gonna back down from a challenge. And
Yeah.
they do that well without making her obnoxious.
Yeah. Oh, also, I love the food because it looks like mess food, military mess food, but at the same time, it also makes me hungry. I kind of want that food.
Yeah, I definitely
'Cause,
ate,
like-
ate a lot of this in the Army.
I know exactly what kind of food that is and how it's going to taste, and
yeah.
there is something kind of reassuring to it.
Lots of salty going on there. Just, the
Yeah, you
sodium
need your
is
electrolytes,
off the
bro.
chart. Yeah. But you know what? That's one of the ways that they can make it all taste pretty good. It was in construction. It's okay. Do you buy that like they don't know who he is? I feel like they would at least know who he is, to a certain extent. Like, not that he's famous, but be like,
I know that
the guy's a
they
Jaeger
know
pilot.
who he is, and they know that he was. This guy just thinks he's better than everybody.
Yeah.
Like, he sees this guy because the Jaeger program has moved so fast. The Jaegers have literally been around for 11 years. And you have this young kid who's in the nicest mech. He's and they have the highest kill ratio now. And if you've ever known any guy who's like that, they're assholes and they hate everybody. And they're just terrible.
Okay.
And they play that a little over the top, but they also play it well.
Yeah. Okay, as we get into the stick fighting here.
I like stick fighting. I do. It's over dramatic. Everything about this scene is over the top. Her poutiness, all the showy, flashy, almost like episode 3, Star Wars episode 3, like stick combat, the music, him being a badass, like super over the top, but I love it.
Oh, yeah. I like that he's lean but still like strong. It makes you believe that he's fast, even though he's kind of a big guy.
Yes, that was actually something I was going to bring up. Is that he has one of my absolute favorite like builds when it comes to a hero character in something like this, because he's not so gratuitously over the top big that you're like, I bet he was using anabolic steroids, where at the same time you're like, I've seen guys at the gym like that and I envy them.
Yes. It can be done by just, he definitely got ready for any scene like this because, it's all the things you do right before you go on camera to make everything look better.
Mm-hmm.
But you can
He's
do
probably
it.
like 3 days dehydrated.
Yeah. You have the very careful boots down, bare feet. Here you go.
Yeah, see, this is the tank top thing.
matches
And
her
again,
hair.
the tank top matches her hair. And this is one of those things where this is kind of how I would want, female leads put in there if you want them to have the kind of like look at the physique, because this is an incredibly attractive look without being so gratuitous that it feels gross.
It's odd to me that we have like a half kata here before we start going. It's like, I don't know. It's
Yeah, I didn't really.
Like
think about it that way, the whole half kata thing. But I guess you're right.
yeah. I mean, I get what they're going for here. This is like, I feel like they were trying to come up with a visually interesting way for the audience to, one, give us a little bit of action, and to try to, explain compatibility by fighting. I'm not sure if it works on that level, but it is a cool looking scene. I'll gladly give it that.
Yeah, I mean, what else are you gonna have them doing? Um,
They're gonna take
and I
they're
don't know,
gonna
I
take
like
one of those 500 multiple choice tests together, right? That's what you would. That's what would actually
right.
happen.
They're gonna they're gonna take their Myers Briggs. They're gonna investigate. They're gonna read the 6 love languages. Um, and yeah, no, I dig it. I think that it's done really well.
Ooh,
Because it is visually interesting. It is kind of sexy for both guys and girls.
yeah,
Without being gross, in my opinion.
yeah.
So,
Why not?
do you buy like a romantic tension between them? Like or it's just kind of like lust at this point.
I think that I see. I don't think there's a romantic. I think that there's a, just for lack of a better way to put it, I think there's a just a purely sexual attraction along with a respect that gives it grows throughout the film. I think it's just and this is a real thing. When there's a lot of tension, when things are on the line, I mean, this does happen all the time, so it's not realistic at all. But it's, I like that their relationship stays. It doesn't, they don't like true love save. If this had like a moment, I'll pick on my a movie that I adore here for a second. If it had a Matrix moment with a I love you, and that's how this is gonna, kind of have a resolution a little bit, it would really, I think it would not work in this film. And I'm glad that they avoided anything like that as a plot device where, because they're going to be linked, and that link leads to some kind of, true love or whatever. I just yeah. And I'm a total sap by the way, so I'm not saying I don't like that in films, but go ahead.
No, I think that it would have weakened it a lot because they do actually have a moment at the end where I thought that they were going to kiss. I thought that's something they were going to do. And I appreciate that they didn't go there. I do think that there is supposed to be like a romantic chemistry that develops between them. And if they had like used that in a sequel or something, I wouldn't have been mad about it. But I'm glad that they didn't overdo it in this movie.
Yeah. Well, again, I think this movie knew what it was supposed to be. Del Toro wanted a movie where the big stuff was robots versus monsters, with just enough character and plot going on to make it not feel ridiculous. I mean, like totally pointless. And I think he hit that balance pretty well, because I mean, we go back to the scientists, we have the plot thread going on, which I like for the most part. We get
I
the
think
world
it's
building.
very interesting.
Yeah, when we introduce Ron Perlman later and kind of get into that, that there's a whole black market, which absolutely would have happened if this was going on. Like there's, and there's enough character stuff to make it. He's got like the old school bellows back there, just going, just because, because why not have a bellows from the freaking 1200s back there as part of his machine?
Yeah. Well, it feels very on par with Del Toro's other work, especially like Hellboy and Blade 2. Just right. One of the things about this movie is that Del Toro felt like this was going to be the movie that made or broke his career, because he was coming off of 2 major losses. He was going to be directing The Hobbit, and he had creative differences with the team, with the executives, I should say, and those creative differences, he ended up leaving the production. He did a whole bunch of the pre-production, on The Hobbit, and so when he left that, he was very disappointed. Then he started production on another movie called At the Mountains of Madness, which is a interpretation of an H.P. Lovecraft story that's particularly interesting, and it would be a very visually intense movie and all that. But then it ran into some problems with budget, because it was going to be R-rated, And then they just straight up canceled it because of a movie called Prometheus, the Alien prequel by Ridley Scott,
The
which
beautiful
is
film that's
essentially
also stupid.
it is the exact same plot of At the Mountains of Madness.
I knew all
just
about The
done
Hobbit. I
differently.
did not know about the. I did not know about that one though.
I was very excited because I read At the Mountains of Madness. It's a very interesting story. I think it would make a really cool kind of horror adventure film. Like kind of like The Mummy meets The Thing meets Prometheus, but with, of course, Lovecraft's signature creepy, weird Lovecraftian creatures mixed in.
I wish they had kept their
Um,
suits white. Sorry to interrupt you.
I get that. I think part of it is that everything's supposed to be upgraded, so they wanted to make it sleeker.
Yeah, but it's way less visually distinct. Or if they had left like their do you call them pauldrons or whatever the shoulder thing is? I wish they had kept maybe
Pauldron.
some white accents somewhere. But
Oh,
just
I agree with that definitely because I really like the pauldrons because they have like the thing on it.
it's like a bird or
You know,
something.
the thing.
Kind of crest.
Yeah, crest. Thank you. Um. Oh, so this guy here, the main tech.
Yeah, he's like
I like
he's
this guy.
he's the guy in the chair, right?
He's the guy in the chair. He's fun. He's in a bunch of stuff. He's in the 2009 Star Trek.
Oh, that's right.
The guy's name is Clifton Collins, and he was in the 2009 Star Trek. He was a Romulan. Where's the location of Ambassador Spock? He was in the TV show Westworld. I know that there's something else. I need to look it up. But something that like really stood out to me. And I can't remember what it was. Oh, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. He was the vegan
Oh,
police along with
yeah.
Thomas Jane.
Oh gosh. We need to do that movie at some point.
Oh my god, I would love to do that movie.
Yeah.
This day, you knowingly consumed chicken parmesan. Chicken parmesan isn't vegan?
Is it vegan? Oh gosh. I also we haven't talked about it at all. I do not remember her name. I feel like a criminal for not knowing the name of GLaDOS' voice actress.
Oh yeah, because the
Gypsy
GLaDOS.
Danger's AI is and it's such an iconic, and that is one of those little nerd references that you just and you would actually miss it. Like he didn't overuse it, and she's not cranked up where it's crazy obvious that it's her unless you kind of are listening for it. But such a distinct voice. I love the Portal games. You know, they're just Valve's games are all just awesome. I'm a big fan of all that stuff. But having that little nerd reference in there was just something that I thought I was surprised nobody else had tried it before, honestly. But this was a great place for it. It's such a distinct voice.
Yeah.
Because it's not just
And it
just the
was-
voice, the cadence, the way she talks. The tweak they do to her voice to make it sound monotone but still very scarily femininely dangerous.
Yeah, well, they got permission from Valve to use that because he was just such a huge fan of the Portal games and the whole like robots thing. And he was allowed to use it. It is the same voice actress and everything.
Yeah, I literally just watched a YouTube video yesterday where they said her name, and I feel horrible that I forgot. But
Yeah, I
on,
don't know
I'm
her
just
name
gonna find
either.
it
Let me
really
look it
fast.
up.
I got it.
Do Ellen McLean.
Yeah, you're so fast.
I'm
Gosh,
faster.
you know what?
Research is half my job, or at least it would be if I still had a job.
Well, that's a conversation for a different podcast. That we don't do. This whole thing, I enjoy. Again, there's a lot of exposition going on here, but it's
It's done in an entertaining way.
yeah, it's frantically kind of I mean, and again, Charlie Day. I don't have a strong opinion either way, but in this movie, I like him, and I think that he just gives it kind of that manic. Scientist that you should look out for, honestly, because obviously he demonstrates poor judgment. I love the one eye that's all, bloody.
Yeah.
It's a good look.
I think that this is the type of role. He always reminds me of the character of Nick Miller from New Girl. If you ever watched that,
I've seen bits and pieces of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Funny character. The actor voiced Peter Parker in Into the Spider-Verse and stuff like that. Just fun actor. And this guy reminds me of his meth head brother.
Hannibal Chow.
Hannibal Chow.
Oh man.
I remember following this movie's development, and they announced that he's playing a character named Hannibal Chow, and I'm like, what the hell kind of a name is that?
Well,
And
it's
then they
like
actually like make jokes and play with it.
and to also like call a character Hannibal, I feel like is it's either gutsy or I'm not sure, but it's such a
Yeah.
distinct name. It's very cinematically known, obviously.
Yeah, I can only think of like 3 characters named Hannibal. One of them, Hannibal Chow, and then Ryan Reynolds' terrible character from Blade 3, Hannibal
Yeah.
King. And then Hannibal Lecter, of course, because I don't think I've ever seen a movie that actually features the character of Hannibal. Hannibal of Carthage.
It's okay. What do you think here that they decided to give them both trauma, essentially?
Trauma. Well, I mean, you're living in a world with these things. There's going to be trauma on all sides, and
Yeah.
it's not like you're not going to have a lot of people in this program who aren't in it for a good reason.
Yeah.
So her having trauma makes sense. He has older trauma that's a little bit, or not necessarily older, but he has trauma that's a little bit more healed.
Sorry,
So
really fast. I'm going to interrupt and get back. Is in her helmet, the lighting, do you think that's supposed to be a little portal joke, a little inside the blue and orange portals?
Oh, I'm not sure. That'd be really funny.
I'm thinking like that might be like an Easter egg by the VX department. But okay, back to her trauma. Sorry.
Yeah. It's just I think that it works for him being able to kind of like guide her through trauma.
Sorry.
Mm.
So stupid.
It is stupid. This is an actress who is 13 years old who's supposed to be playing an 8-year-old. And you also have a famous story is that she couldn't say Guillermo del Toro's name because he's Mexican. And so she called him Totoro, like the Studio Ghibli movie My Neighbor Totoro.
Okay. This is like a crab kaiju. It looks like a crab. Like an old crusty crab.
Crab people, talk like crab, look like people.
It's interesting that they use the shoe as like her touchstone or whatever that Idris Elba gave her back somehow, like some kind of a memento or something. I'm not really sure.
A token, a totem.
Yeah.
A reminder of why he wants to protect her, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, I know this is like
that whole thing's not fully fleshed out.
Yeah, I know this whole thing is like supposed to be in her head, but there's definitely no way that like a kaiju would be like interested in like one random human just walking through a city.
Hey, girl.
This is bad.
Don't shoot less than ideal.
Do not shoot the plasma cannon indoors.
No, I think that's against the safety manual.
Yes.
The
fail-safe never works.
Way.
In no movie ever does any of the safeties work when this kind of thing happens. The warp core ejection system is always offline, with the exception of when the plot wants it not to be. Anytime there's a big red button, you hit it and nothing happens. Like, it's such a funny movie thing. There's safety systems, but those safety systems do not work. When you want to be like, why is it even there then? Like, why is this not working?
When's the last time you did a safety test?
Yeah.
OSHA does not approve.
You just start pulling cords out. Oh, gosh.
Yeah. You gotta just pull them out of the wall. I do like this idea of her like kind of getting trapped in that. I like that they had a specific phrase for it of she's chasing the rabbit. Which is, very Lewis Carroll.
Oh yeah.
Alice in Wonderland.
No. So they like did all this, but like, okay, I forget. Does that solve the problem?
Happening.
Nothing's happening. Well, it's got its own nuclear reactor, right?
Yeah, it does have an independent power source.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they shut it down because he got through to her.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a good scene.
Heavy. Oh yeah, no, I think this whole sequence is really good. They're man, you're right.
Um,
Their suits look so good. The fact they're entirely practical and they can move. Although the
Mhm.
neck pieces do look like they would chafe a little bit. Just saying.
Yeah.
The bone slums.
Right. Like that's some world building there, because I mean, if you look at that panning shot, you can see that it's built in like the rib cage of an old kaiju that they
I love
couldn't
that like
move.
humans would do this. Humans would be like, "Hey, this is a good place to build the town back. Let's just right here."
Well, it'd probably be a lot more like internal politics. We're like, we have all these refugees, we don't know where to put them. Put them in that over there, but that's like a bad area. They're like, too bad, they'll survive, and figure it out.
I love that it's so obvious. This guy like blacklighting, just like yeah, and they're just like following him around. It's like the worst kept secret ever.
This guy here is a personal friend of Guillermo del Toro's, who tends to pop up in a lot of his movies. Most notably, he's at the beginning and the very end of Blade 2. He plays a vampire who Blade allows to get away in Blade 2, and then at the very end of the movie, he shows back up to finish the job, and that's the ending of the film.
Okay. I
actually,
remember
like, recognize him.
remember liking Blade 2 a lot, but I have not seen that movie in probably 10 years.
Oh, it's one of my great guilty pleasure movies. It's in a lot of ways you just can't sit there and say it's good, because in many ways it's really not. But it's got its great moments, and it's so stylistic.
I love how he's
Yeah,
just
I like the nerding
out over everything.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, these guys are like turning him into like, oh, here are the shoes.
Yeah. Clinky gold shoes.
Oh, it's good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, he's
Such good sound effects to it.
yeah. Well, and Ron Perlman, he's not. Oh man, this just. Oh, I can't. Eesh, just imagining that. Makes
That was
my,
Guillermo del Toro's hand, because he didn't trust anybody else to do it.
I'm assuming it
Because
wasn't.
if there was a
sharp
problem,
blade.
he wanted to take the blame. No. But it's still awkward.
Well, Ron Perlman, he's not what you would call like a handsome man, but he's got presence. He's just got that.
He's got gravitas, and he's
Oh, yeah.
striking.
Well, yeah, he's a striking guy. I'm not sure how tall he actually is, but they always film him like he's like freaking 6'5" or something.
If I recall, he is pretty darn big.
Okay.
Oh, mighty internet, please grant me your wisdom and tell me how tall is he? He's not even 6.
Really?
He's 5'11".
Oh, good for him.
He's 2 inches taller than me.
He presents well. I want a light. I mean, they're all too old, and it's happened animated wise, but I want to see Ron Perlman, Michael Ironside, and Clancy Brown all in a movie together.
Oh man.
Because those are like
And
some of my like,
if
favorite.
only Powers Booth was still alive.
Oh, and Powers Booth. Oh, just
He actually broke his nose in this altercation. Charlie Hunnam's nose got broken, and they kept the Charlie Hunnam requested that if it was viable, that they keep it in the movie as kind of like, I did the work for this.
Nice. Well, he had seen Vigo break his toe in Two Towers, and he's like, "That's what a real actor does."
Right.
Oh,
yeah, I do like that.
I do like that it's not out of left field that he's a great fighter, because we did have the sequence where they were doing the stick fighting.
Yeah. And it just kind of implies that they're all really good fighters, because it's the nature of the job.
Yeah.
They like have to be.
So the Idris Elba's, what's the character's name again? I forget for him.
Stryker Pentecost.
Stryker. Okay, that should be easy to remember. I don't know why I'm struggling with that. Stryker.
I remember Pentecost more than Stryker, to be honest.
Is he Pentecostal? Is that, he's got the Holy Spirit?
Hallelujah.
um, it's interesting because they went with, he's like a father figure to her. He also kind of knows him and has respect, but is also like hurt. But he's also like the only other man who's ever like piloted a Jaeger solo, and like they try to do a lot with his character beyond just making him kind of the cliche, tough, hardened military guy, which has been done many, many times by many great actors over the years. But there are times where I almost feel like they are trying too many layers at once with him. I don't know.
Yeah, and he's dying.
Yeah, and he's dying. That's right. He's got a lot going on.
He is, yeah.
And I think,
Busy boy.
he has arguably the most quoted line in this entire film, right? We're canceling the apocalypse.
Canceling the apocalypse.
The guy's voice is, gosh, how is he not done like more voice work?
I know, right? Well, I mean, he's done quite a bit.
Like anything mainstream that I feel like I'm trying to remember any. I mean, I don't play or watch, even remotely everything, but
well, I mean, the one that immediately comes to mind is the Cyberpunk 2077 DLC,
the
Phantom
DLC.
Liberty.
Yep.
I mean, he's freaking Knuckles the Echidna. Like, he has practically his own franchise where he's the voice, He was in Zootopia, I think. Was he? Was he in Zootopia? I feel like he was. I don't know. He was in Jungle Book, the live action remake. He was the tiger Shere Khan.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about Jungle Book.
Jungle Book. But yeah, this was a practical set that they had her on this whole time. Back when they had the back when they had the rumbling going on from the kaiju, they had everything on the same hydraulics. So that way they were able to make it so everything moved at the same time together. It was a pretty cool effect.
Nice. It's a good shot right here. The hero shot with the sun behind him.
Yeah.
You got the ash falling.
Daddy.
I wish we had seen his Jaeger better, because his Jaeger looked cool. Definitely, again, a very American silhouette. You can tell that earlier when it just had kind of that World War II tank-esque vibe to it.
Yeah. The Russian Jaeger was actually based on like the old T-16s, like the World War II.
Well, it has
stuff.
that, and very
tanks.
much. Yeah, it has that coupled with kind of the nuclear reactor vibe.
Yeah, it looks like
a cooling tower for a head.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't think of the word cooling tower.
Okay, again, it's such a cliche thing to have a leader be incredibly like the most offensive thing you can do is touch them physically. Like, touching them is like crossing some kind of massive line. But Idris Elba is so intense in this scene that you believe him.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, I get that. I don't like being touched.
I don't either. But it's been done. It's a very well used. Like, oh, now you've done it. You touched my shoulder. Or you like kind of pulled me back around. You stopped me somehow. Like, and again, I understand
it. Are you humanizing me right now?
Are you trying to connect with me in some way?
Because I will not have any form of emotional bonding going on in my military base.
Yeah. Okay, this is a weird thing to point out. His suit jacket fits odd. It's like it blouses a tiny bit too much after his waist. It's too... Suits...
That's interesting.
Don't hang that way, generally speaking. It's like it
I
doesn't
don't
fit
wear a
him
lot of
quite
suits,
right.
so I don't know.
Everybody stopped talking when he walked down.
And when she walked down, because they know that these two are fuck-ups. Oh, excuse my language.
Friendly, Zach. I love that they're like, no, we're not eating with all you guys. We're going to go up and stare at our Jaeger.
Dude, I would.
Yeah. Okay, as much as I love the design of the nuclear reactor, like opening in the middle of the chest, it looks very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely seems like a little bit of a weak spot. You have like literally a fan.
It might...
You just like somebody chucks a rock in that thing, you might have an issue.
Well, it might be kind of the Batman bat symbol school of thought, where it's an intentional target and it's not actually a weak spot.
Mm. I guess like
Arkham Knight?
seawater
No?
would go right through it, you know?
Maybe there's like a glass partition.
Um, I just, I was thinking about this
Mhm.
right now.
Oh, you were thinking.
You know what? I do think occasionally. And then I say words.
Wow.
We're what? We are an hour into this film. And other than a flashback and the newsreel, we haven't had a Jaeger fight.
No,
until
that's
now.
actually one of the things that I was realizing last time I watched this movie is that there's not actually a lot of like the expected action in the first half of this movie. It all pretty much kicks off right now, and it doesn't really take a breath from this point onward. But the majority of action that we've seen so far has been human action. We had the training sequence or the drifting sequence, whatever you want to call it, and then we had the corridor fight from a couple minutes ago.
So, would you consider story structure wise that this the beginning of the second act right here?
Yeah, I guess.
Because you had kind of like the
I would think
introduction.
that the second act would be a little bit. I feel like the second act kind of began with kind of like them drifting together and Mako's kind of breakdown.
Well, then that definitely makes this a
that
4
felt
act
very
film.
second acty.
But that makes this definitely a 4.
This is a 4-act film.
Okay, because we have, if this is the third act, then we have the whole underwater is definitely the fourth act. Then
No, this movie does not fit into the traditional act structure.
I kind of want to know what the military would think, or maybe they've done it, and I need to see some actual video of Chinook helicopters working in tandem like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've never actually. I mean, it seems like it would work.
When I was younger, I thought that Chinook was chin hook, and I said that to my dad once while somebody else was nearby, and they both like mocked me relentlessly for it.
Aw, I like its little like relief valves or like whatever they are.
Yeah.
So because the Russian one is like the only Mark 1, right? Like it's one of the oldest. Do I remember that right in the lore?
Yeah,
The
like a
sucker's
Mark 1 or
old.
Mark 2 or something.
Well, because if I remember right, it's a Mark 1, Gypsy Danger's a Mark 2, Crimson Typhoon's a 3, and
Striker Eureka is
Strike Eureka's a 4.
Yeah. Another thing that I like about this is that they tie this side story into the main story through the use of like what they're doing is making is the kaiju are coming for him now. And it's able to tie the two stories together pretty well, where a lesser movie would have them just kind of be separate and reacting to one another instead of actually being connected.
Yeah, I never quite understood, or maybe the movie doesn't even tell you though, why the kaiju were trying to come for him. Like, is it because he knows something and they want to kill him? Is they're afraid of what he might say,
Yeah.
or is it just because they saw his face and now it's personal, or they saw his brain? I guess is more accurate. They saw inside of his mind.
Yeah, I'm not positive.
I'm not sure. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna tell you. Oh, again, this guy, man, his tie knot is like the tiniest thing I've ever seen. I just realized that. How did he get that tie knot so tiny? I totally got distracted by that.
I don't know. That's a really
Look at that.
strange
It's
little
like
tie.
barely.
Yeah.
I love that Ron Perlman, like, recognize that eye a little bit. Yeah. Oh gosh, I do love
is that the implication that he like knows what that type of stuff does? Did his little underground group try that?
Well, I mean, I think it's implied, and that's again when he goes in and kind of sees them all, all the stuff they're doing, and he's all excited about the stuff they have. That basically they've been doing everything.
The dark science.
This guy, ooh man, I feel like the sensors on these kaiju and these, because it was right there next to him.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you would have detected this thing, right next to you.
Yeah, like there's some water displacement.
Yeah, I mean the most basic sonar would have been like, yeah, it's right next to you. It's not even that deep of water. Again, are they floating right now, or are they literally in water that's not only 100 feet deep?
They're just really flat creatures when they want.
Ooh. This is like okay. This is a cool shot. The whole just flip and then the turn and
Twist.
back down. It actually I forget sometimes he doesn't go over. He goes up and then back down the same direction, and it's using like shifting its own momentum to pull it back down. If you watch it, it makes it, if you casually watch it, you think he flips all the way around, but he doesn't. The Russian is just, I'm just punching you.
And the music is kind of reminiscent of like Hunt for Red October. They get that little bit of deep chanting in there.
Yeah, a little bit of Russian.
Mm-hmm. So this kaiju is called Otachi, Category 4 kaiju.
He's the tail one. He's got a bad tail, and he has the acid, right? He has both, doesn't he? Ooh.
Yes, he's got a lot of stuff. This guy, the Asian, the Japanese, Chinese.
They're Chinese.
Kaiju.
They did.
The
Jaeger,
that hurt.
not the kaiju.
Yes, the Jaeger. Sorry. It was originally going to have 4. It was originally going to have 4 pilots, but they wanted to have actual actors, and they couldn't find any quadruplets.
Interesting.
And the Cherno Alphas, their suits in here are supposed to look far more steampunk, just like distinctly.
I loved the when the kaiju turned to face the Russian, that its tail very casually kind of flipped the head of the Crimson Typhoon.
Yeah.
Off kind of again, just they didn't lose that continuity. Oh, this is bad.
And there's a second one.
This yeah.
Or Cherno Alpha.
I'm pretty sure that the Russians are not going to make it.
Nope.
Oh,
Like that right there.
because they're actually they weren't in the true head, right? The Russian one, they were further down.
Yeah, they're in the middle.
Yeah.
And
because again, like the video I was watching was saying that basically Gypsy Danger, that was where the precursors learned where the pilots were, and that was like a big turning point. And that was where the kaiju actually kind of came out, and especially drifting with Charlie Day's character, that they basically learned what they needed to counter these specific Jaeger's strengths. Because if you notice, like the kaiju basically have what's needed to specifically counter, like the tail for Crimson Dynamo, and then the acid to get through the Russian one. That it's like it learned.
Yeah,
I love that shot of like the gear in the arm, and just again reinforcing that this is a mechanical thing. Although I'm not sure what throwing it into the water would do. Just saying.
I think they're just trying to get it away from it so they could get distance.
Oh,
so
for
that
the
way
rockets.
they could.
Yeah.
This one was based on a gorilla. Its movements.
See, if you just hit that fire button a little bit faster, you would have been fine.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the only what I would call plot hole. Not a plot hole. A plot convenience right here. That the kaiju just don't take the 20 seconds and just finish off. Or, I mean, is it just supposed to be that they really think that that's it? They don't even have to worry about it because it's dead? That they don't maybe it's they don't understand that all that means is that it's turned off, but it can be repaired because it's not physically damaged.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like they just leave it sitting there, and it's one of the. It's not a plot hole, but it's a plot convenience for sure.
No, it very much is, because it immediately is just like, well, I have to go about my mission now and go after Charlie Day.
The other one's sitting out there, just chilling. You think like, while it's chilling there, it would be like, I just want to knock it over at least, something like that,
right? Yeah.
But this, I mean, everything we just saw in the water, fantastic. The effects work in this movie are truly. I mean, was it Weta that did this, or was it ILM?
No, it was ILM.
Yeah, man, it's good. And I think after
Industrial Light and Magic.
Lord of the Rings, Weta deservedly got a lot of props for just being a major player in the space. But this is one of those examples where like ILM is still ILM.
Mm-hmm. And they got the goods.
Yeah, like their what would you call it? Portfolio is decent.
Right. Yeah. They're only like the best in the world.
Man, this is
And
just
for the longest time, they were the only ones in the
Yeah.
world, you know?
well because it was. I know Digital Domain started to really get going, and then Weta really get going. Those are still the three big ones. I
Yeah,
believe,
Digital
right?
Domain is still pretty big.
Yeah.
Digital Domain especially has a corner in water simulations.
Yeah. Well, and this movie
Yeah.
has a ton of water work, but it's
Mm-hmm.
again.
Well, it was before. I don't think Digital Domain was doing their big water sims at this time.
Yeah.
Or they might have been. I'm not positive. But it seems a little early because I hadn't heard of them around this time yet.
Yeah. But this was I still think this might be, as much as I like the 2014 Godzilla very much, I think this might be the best fight ever between large opponents in a city. Like as far as just how it works and just how the physics work and how
Oh
Just-
my goodness, no. You're preaching to the choir on that one. That's not even a question. I like the 2014 Godzilla, but its budget was so low
it's right here.
for
It's
what
like-
it was that like they have a fight, but it's very covered. It's very hidden. The closest thing that you have to this is Godzilla, Kong, and Mecha Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Kong, and I hate that one.
Mm.
Is it necessarily worse? I don't know, but I hate it. This one I love
Yeah.
because I'm biased. Get out of here now. Having watched a lot of Caravan of Garbage and some other Australian stuff now, I am now just realizing how to kind of tell a terrible Australian accent from a good one.
We take these flare guns and do something really stupid. I do like
I like
that
that one.
that line. It's a good line.
It feels very military.
I'm not really sure what you were going to do here.
They're trying to attract it. They're trying to distract it.
They're
know?
What do you mean distracted? They've already got its attention. Just
Good question.
right in the eye though. That's a good shot.
Right?
I mean, if you ever gotten a flare right in the eye, I'm assuming you'd be dead. But I'm sure
I did have a gnat fly into my eye while I was biking once.
Ooh,
It was unpleasant.
that's a trailer
This
shot
is
right
the-
there.
Oh yeah, well one of the breakdowns that I saw of it, they described it as having an almost divine light coming behind it, and I really liked that description. It's just like almost like an angel descending from heaven to save you. I'm like, I dig that. I like that. It's his way of saying, please don't screw this up. Please don't screw this up.
Yeah.
Please don't screw this up.
Oh man.
It's like, sorry guys, the world ended because my girlfriend had emotional trauma.
Oh. I love that the young Australian guy now he's like all about like, yep, we like you now because you're here to save us.
Battle buddies.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Oh
It's
man,
working.
that's a good shot. And
The
again,
physics. I love the cut of the music.
yeah. Oh
Oh,
man,
just look at all this.
there's so much going on.
And
Well, I love there's so much going on, but you're still following it. Like there's no, you never lose track of what's going on. It's very easy for action scenes to become chaotic to the point where you're like, I don't even know what's happening. It looks cool, but I don't know what's actually going on. This whole sequence, at least to me, you never get lost.
Yeah. And so this coloration to everything, the very neon and all that, people are just like, oh, it's kind of, like you said earlier, that kind of Asian feel. But according to Guillermo del Toro, this is how, like, Mexican movies and, like, celebrations go with this type of neon saturation, the blues and the oranges especially. Such good complementary colors. Like, around this time, if you look at it, like, every single movie poster out there had a blue and orange motif. Colors are so good and complementary.
The elbow rocket is just like, it's so ridiculous, but I like it.
I like it too. I think it makes some sense.
Yeah.
This is the best fight in the movie. This is
Oh yeah.
the pinnacle, you know?
Yeah. There's a reason why they use this fight to sell the movie. I love the one little slow mo shot we get here of like the head, just like
Yeah.
It's like almost cartoonish, but it's just it's good.
Mm. And then yeah, that scene in particular, you really get that gorilla-esque like look with its belly and everything, the shorter legs, the longer arms. All of this, there is no practical effects in any of this. It is all digital. I also like the camera work, the like punch-in shots that they do. A lot of people don't like that for fully digital shots. They're like, why do we have punch-in shots in space? Why do we have punch-in shots in all these CG things? It doesn't look good. I think it looks great.
I love it. No, I'm right with you. I love how it takes multiple, like they got to get through like through its skin, and then like the arm is like you're getting to the internal organs. So you kind of just really and it's still heavy, right?
Yeah.
The bird on it's just good.
Just a little ting.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh. And shoot it a couple extra times for good measure. Double tap.
My kids and I have still, to this day, will occasionally do like pulse check.
Yeah. This
check for. I'm sorry, not a pulse check. Check for a pulse. Check for a pulse.
Yeah. I feel like this is kind of what the Power Rangers movie from 2017 should have tried to be. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like this is the combat that they needed for a Megazord. Versus some sort of crazy monster, which I think that they used Goldar in that.
Yeah, and they made him big. Dude. Yeah.
Yeah, but they actually made him like out of gold.
Oh, that's right. I saw the movie once, and it was very forgettable.
I didn't even see the whole thing.
I am just young enough that when the very original incarnation of Power Rangers was on television, like live, I was the right age. I was like 8 or 9.
Oh yeah.
So
I loved it. It. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But yeah, that I don't like that actress director lady. What's her name? Elizabeth something.
Rita. Yeah, Elizabeth.
Yeah, Rita. Not Elizabeth Hahn.
Was it Banks?
Banks. Thank you, Elizabeth Banks. I don't like her. Just for many reasons. And a lot of her comments about like the failure of the Charlie's Angels movie when that was just such a offensively written movie.
You made a bad movie.
She just bothers me. They made a bad movie. They made an insulting movie, and she decides to blame it on like men, essentially.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
It was really good, like spacing right there. The bricks fell right in front of him.
Mm-hmm. He got real lucky.
He did.
I am curious as to why they would want him specifically. Is it like a vengeance thing? Does he represent a weakness, perhaps?
Yeah,
they want to kill him because he's a vulnerability to them.
It makes the most sense to me. Oh, that's just.
I love that. That's such a great effect. That kind of like bioluminescent coral-like flower, almost like the inside of a lilac.
Yeah, it looks like that, but also very like, deep sea, kind of fish thing. But
it's like if Lovecraft went to a rave.
Yeah. I assume it makes the most sense to me that he represents a threat because he knows he has knowledge that the precursors might just deem as making them more vulnerable. And so they just want to kill him. That simple explanation makes the most sense to me, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Give me that. Give me that ship.
One of the things that was pointed out.
I love that it stays kind of up between the buildings. Sorry. It just like.
That's a great effect.
Yeah.
Gypsy Danger specifically moves in these sequences to avoid as much collateral damage as possible. It's not hitting the buildings. You actually see it so that it like avoids hitting buildings. And that's I really like that. And that's something that was disregarded in the sequel. they just didn't give a crap about the buildings. Like, look right here. It's specifically avoiding hitting any buildings, and they did that on purpose.
Yeah, you just definitely have to repair the road below it, but that's about it.
Mm-hmm. And they actually have this whole, like, trying to get it away from the city. Okay,
Yeah,
that
he
looks a
steps-
lot like Night City from...
Yeah,
you see, it, like, steps over the bridge,
Yep.
right? Looks a lot like Night City from Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
But yeah, they, like, try to make them swagger.
Yeah.
It's great.
Oof. Oh, and he definitely fights with like an American kind of, kind of boxing with a little bit of
This scene right here.
MMA in there. That was all.
Such a great little bit of comedy.
Oh yeah, that was a practical shot right there, right?
Yes, they actually built a tiny little cubicle, tiny little office set with a whole bunch of 3D printed office stuff. And they made like 13 or 17 actual cubicles with all the little 3D printed stuff in it. And they put a battering ram through it. Like, I love that so much.
Ooh.
Acid splash. Dodged.
Yep. Oh, we gotta take care of that.
I wonder what that smells
I
like.
love just the. We're just gonna take that.
We're just gonna deal with that now.
Yeah, I've had just about enough of the the acid. Just.
I like the grippy grabby tail. I think that it's very dynamic.
So it's a cool solution here too.
Yeah, releasing coolant.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to cool these things with some kind of liquid nitrogen based system. It's the only thing that would keep it working.
Right. It's just the question is how much time do they have before they overheat now?
Yeah.
I thought that they were going to do some sort of like Godzilla thing. Not Godzilla, the other one. King Kong thing. Where they were going to like split its jaw open. But then I was like, nope, it's still going. I'm like, this fight is not ending. Is this the climax of the movie?
Yeah, it just keeps going. He's a bat.
And the wings.
Okay.
Wow, he's a wyvern.
He's a wyvern. Okay. What do you think? I've heard many people throughout the years, although he would have trouble flying without his tail to help him, I feel like, because a tail is a big part of, being like able to fly, illustrated by Toothless and How to Train Your Dragon.
As illustrated by Toothless.
But I have had many people over the years call this sword one of those like, oh, this incredibly effective weapon that you just totally forgot about until right then. I've had probably a dozen people discussing this movie that all have brought that up. I'm not sure if I feel that it's a problem plot wise, but it is very effective, and it just
it is very effective. But I feel like this would be a really difficult thing to do. Its nature, I think, would make it a little brittle, easily broken, but also.
It's a good shot.
Oh,
it's such a good shot.
Such a great shot. It would probably be less used because it'd be very destructive to the environment around it. You wouldn't have.
Well, I can imagine it really struggling
against. I think that it wouldn't be
buildings.
I would struggle against buildings. I also feel that it just wouldn't be very good in the type of melee situation that they're in. It's a little too long. They need like a punch dagger almost, because they grapple with these things so closely. Like a sword in a boxing match, in a wrestling match, isn't good. So to have like a sword in this type of situation, I think they designed it badly, and so it's too long for it to actually be effective. So it's not used very much and often forgotten about.
Yeah.
Because what they need are like those blades. 1/4 of the size that come out of its knuckles,
Yeah, but it needs them. Yeah, it needs Wolverine claws out of whatever material that blade is made out of, like retractable claws.
Yeah. I genuinely, because I remember having that same thought. I'm like, well, why weren't they just using that? And I'm like, well, with that type of punch up, it'd be practically useless.
Well, especially in the city, but I feel like out in the ocean, when you have the room to maneuver, it would be effective.
I guess.
I mean,
I don't know. I haven't really thought about it.
But it's also. I mean, it's definitely not. It doesn't ruin anything for me. And there's nothing wrong with writing where you have a. Also, too, Americans would absolutely default to the gun first. Like that is an American thing. If you have a sword and you have a plasma rifle, Americans are going to pull out the plasma rifle first, 9 times out of 10. right?
Just thinking of what's it called? Indiana Jones. Bang.
Yeah, that's it. It is for better or for worse. It's very American.
Yeah.
This reveal, just one-eyed. Oh,
He's all
God.
shaking. He's such a big boy now.
I grew up here.
Yeah, you're right. I wish that they had gone a little bit more silvery. This is almost like the what's that movie we
RoboCop
watched?
2014.
RoboCop thing all over again.
Yeah, it just makes it takes
I
a lot of
wonder
the,
if
it takes the detail out.
Yeah. I'm too proud to say anything.
I gave you the nod of respect.
Like, yeah, all right, whatever, man. Like, that's one of those tropes, like the fake out.
Yeah, the fake out of like, I'm so pissed at you. You did great, son.
And this Keith not daughter.
There's no time to celebrate. We gotta keep going.
Celebrate.
Yeah, so at this point, is it supposed to be that these are like the last two like on the planet, essentially?
Yeah, I think so. Which is rough, buddy.
Oh, your nose is bleeding. Right through your mustache.
Yeah. And it's like, SpaghettiOs.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in that whole scene. Because you would want to celebrate. That's like an incredible victory. But at the same time, you guys are in a lot of trouble. You're that was a 50% attrition rate right there.
Oh, just again, this is world building, but also like at this point, if this has been going on for what 7 or 8 years, this would absolutely no, not 7.
11.
It's been like 11 or 13. So what 7 years and then 5 more.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, you would have this entire sub industry would absolutely be existing.
And business is a booming.
War is good for business.
Yeah.
I forget what rule of acquisition that is, but it's true.
Right? Rules of acquisition. I need to rewatch Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. This whole like we're going inside. Just imagine this job where we're like crawling around inside a kaiju in these suits.
Like I've been in full PPE crawling around inside of like mud, like 2.5, 3 foot deep mud underneath homes before, tearing out water and fire damaged insulation. It's brutal, and I don't know. I imagine it'd be kind of cool in like a gross way. I hate the suits though; they look so gross.
Oh, they really do. He's pregnant. I'm not sure if it's actually pregnant. If it's whatever, if that's the right term, probably not. But he's a little baby.
Incubating. Yeah. Like
I love the bioluminescence as they walk around. Kind of coming through with the pressure.
Yeah.
I would get out, guys.
Do they just like grow? Are they just kind of incubating? Do they lay eggs? Did this kaiju have sex?
Did this?
Just saying.
Well, because they're cloned.
Yeah.
So is this this is like a new thing?
I don't know.
Like, I'm assuming this has never happened before. The fact that these guys are surprised by it, means that this is fairly a recent development. I love that it like its own umbilical cord. It's like, what is its undoing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, can you imagine what that would smell like?
I don't want to. I imagine a lot of ammonia, given they've said already that it's ammonia based.
Yeah.
But like, look at this right here. You can feel how dirty the set is.
Oh yeah.
And that's something where they would just like add a whole bunch of crap,
Yeah.
So the way that I understand it from a lot of the expanded lore is that the kaiju were individual creatures and aliens that essentially fought in an arena. They fought each other over and over again, and when the strongest would emerge, they would take it and they would clone it, and they would biologically alter it, genetically alter it, and yeah. So
this genuinely
was
like
cloned and genetic engineered.
Yeah, this genuinely like got me when the first time I saw this in the theater.
Oh yeah, huge surprise. I was
Yeah.
not expecting it at all. I thought he was going to be like a bigger part of the movie. I mean, they of course have their little.
Oh,
Well, do you notice its movements? Does that seem familiar at all to you?
No.
Yeah. Just imagine he was a lawyer.
Oh. Well, I mean, I did in the Jurassic Park the bathroom thing again.
He does almost the exact same moves as the T-Rex eating the lawyer in the original Jurassic Park.
I
thought it was kind of cool anyway.
I mean, well, I'm sure a lot of this. I mean, that was '93. We were talking 20 years, but yeah, I can imagine there's still some of that old school crew at ILM at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I also assume that was largely directorial also, because, I mean, we've already seen it in so many different ways, that Guillermo del Toro just loves to reference things that he likes. Another one of those things, like, there's lots of influence from Japanese television in here, not just anime. In fact, I almost want to say that some of the anime references are not even anime references, so much as referencing things like Power Rangers, Ultraman. Did you ever see any Ultraman?
I've seen like one or two of them.
God, they're awful, but they're also great.
I know I've seen some of them. I couldn't tell you anything about it to save my life.
Yeah. Ultraman, they had actually just started like releasing dubbed Ultraman episodes when I was growing up on stuff like Fox Kids. And I thought that it was really interesting, and I remember one time my dad just being like, "Turn this off. This is stupid." Didn't want me watching that. And
Category 4.
Yeah. Protecting the breach.
Did you see the How It Should Have Ended little short for this movie?
No. What did they say? What was their complaint?
No. I mean, How It Should Have Ended is more of just just poking a little fun at it, and it just basically like had Gypsy Danger just like standing up on top of the opening with its sword, just beheading the kaijus as they came out of the breach, just like standing guard.
I mean, that'd be a real like. I get that in the real world it would be virtually impossible to have a consistent presence on the bottom of the ocean to be able to actually do that.
Well, the other joke was like making a grate out of the material that the swords are made out of, and like just throwing it over so as the kaiju come out of it, they just get diced. I mean, it's
putting
silly,
some
right?
Containment system over that is an interesting idea.
Or you just keep dropping, you just keep dropping bombs down it. You just, I forgot how little. Sorry, in my mind, the other scientist here that's with him is in more of the scenes with Charlie Day, and he's just now kind of back into it. The whole
I had the same thought. I'm like, I was realizing, oh, he hasn't been in this as much as I thought he would be.
No, he did. I mean, he kind of vanished for like an hour.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You're right. Just about an entire hour, isn't it?
I genuinely had forgotten how long that kind of first third was, where we introduce a lot and then we just kind of get to the character building up of just the two of them before we kind of get back to everything that was introduced at the beginning of the film.
Also, the tech there, right here, their guy in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
He's dressed like Matt Smith's Doctor Who.
I've only seen him in pictures, but I will take your word for it.
He's got the tweed, he's got the bow tie, and I'm just like, Is this Guillermo del Toro referencing something? I
The
don't know.
only
I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, this whole sequence is really good. His speech and all that. I did
Oh,
think
so
that
good.
it was a little too telegraphed, and of course he's going to go die because he's already dying. So I was, in the theater the very first time, you're just expecting it because you know that's what's going to happen.
Mhm.
But it still is effective.
Yeah. Then you pair him with the young idiot, and you're like, is he
Oh.
just gonna die? And is the young idiot gonna be okay? But no, they straight up murk the kid.
Yep. They let the dad survive. That's kind of the reverse. Most
Yeah.
storylines actually would have had the two old timers go down together. That's definitely a much more, used. Okay, here we go. At the edge of our hope.
And he's like standing on the hand of the thing.
Yeah.
Um, it's just good shit.
Oh, it's good. I mean, it's a good speech. This definitely is up there in, those great movie speeches.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's quite Independence Day level, but it's pretty darn close.
I.
Oh.
And we're canceling the apocalypse.
I want to
They used a different line, like it was the same line, but they used
Yeah.
a different take
Yeah,
in the trailer that made it more intense.
Well, I think they were playing it by itself versus when cutting it to be part of the rest of the speech. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
God.
you just triggered something though. So okay, do you think it's a better speech than the classic Independence Day?
Actually, I don't think so. I think that it's just about as good.
Well, I think
because this
Idris Elba is a more charismatic guy with a bigger voice than Bill Pullman. I mean, I would say that, but Bill Pullman, for being a guy who's not just a big epic dude, still did such a good job in that speech.
Mm-hmm. Well, part of the thing about that speech that I think makes it great is that it was ad-libbed on the day.
Yeah.
Well, this one you can kind of tell.
It's very scripted.
They were. Yeah. I think they didn't need this scene, and I'm really glad that they kept it in.
No, they give the young pup just a tiny bit of humanity before they kill him, which I appreciate.
Right?
I mean, it makes sense that these pilots would be kind of cocky, arrogant guys. That you would want that personality because what they do is very dangerous and a little bit crazy.
Oh yeah, I bet that they have the exact same jokes as we do today. It's just like take out fighter pilot, right? And she's like, "How do you know you're in the room with a Jaeger pilot?" He'll tell you.
He'll tell you. Yeah. Yep.
For those of you who don't know the classic joke of how do you know you're in the room with a fighter pilot?
Yeah.
He'll tell you.
He'll make sure you know. Don't worry. But there is something about that. There is and there's a genuine need for those guys to be good. They kind of have to be cocky, but they definitely give this. I mean, the fact that he turns there and he's a little he let his eyes water a tiny bit. Like, they give it the little human moment, and I don't mind.
Yeah, same. Until now.
We did have good timing.
See, like there's a romance to it. You know, there's a little bit of a hey, if we survive this, let's bang type of feel to
it. Well, I mean, they're on the raft. I mean, it definitely could have had a James Bond-esque ending, where they just.
I was literally gonna say a kind of Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah, I was thinking of GoldenEye, where Pussy Galore and James Bond.
I'm sorry, GoldenEye?
Sorry, Goldfinger.
You mean
Goldfinger? I apologize. I messed up the classic. Although they're both really good. Goldfinger, yes.
Yeah, the World Is Not Enough and The Spy Who Loved Me come to mind.
Really? Okay, because that is the end. Literally, they're out in the ocean after a plane crashed in Goldfinger. So that's what I think of. Just.
Oh, you're right.
Like on a raft.
So. Well, it's the same thing with Spy Who Loved Me. They're on a raft.
I love there's a random toilet. I don't. It's great that they.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm glad I watched this because I was thinking about showing it to my wife, but she's intensely emetophobic, and she would not appreciate this, random vomit scene. She hates that stuff.
We're going deep, guys.
Love the look here. Love the water physics.
Oh yeah, the music again is just epic.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's odd here again. Yeah, that I know I keep coming back to this. I'm sorry. That they must be like deliberately fighting like on shelves in the ocean, because they were way out in the ocean, and like if you look at most coastlines, once you get out, just quarter mile, you're in hundreds of feet deep water, because most of the continents you have a little bit of a shelf and then it just drops.
Yeah, that's why they call it a continental shelf.
Yep. Interesting too, the idea that they were designed to be mostly, at least the torso, above water, because they had to do the whole like ready to submerge, like that was like a, they kind of made it. I mean, I would have assumed they were always ready to submerge since they fight in the water so often, but the fact that they had to, kind of call out like a special like prep, setting or whatever.
I mean, even submarines are like that,
Well, yeah, they got to close the door. Okay, again, they have like the worst sensors in the sorry. A World War II submarine would have known where that thing was, let alone a 2025.
Or these things have adjusted.
Well, if they didn't play a sound effect in the movie, I would be I wish if they were doing that, I wish they would have not had a sound effect as it swam by.
Okay, yeah.
Like have it be totally silent.
Yeah, I could see that.
I do appreciate that their movements have also shifted a little bit underwater, that they did change the physics, because it would be changed. Like they would be, kind of a little more buoyant, a little bit slower, but balance be a little bit
more
different.
Floaty.
Yeah. Well, again, the idea that like up in like the chair, they know right where the kaiju are, but down on the ground, they're like, we're not really sure.
Yeah. What do you think of the whole thing where he's just like, "Oh, you're an idiot. I can easily drift with you because I'm smarter than you." Line.
It's convenient. I think that they just needed to keep going, and they wanted. I think that's it's. They just needed the plot to get to where they wanted to go next, and so there you go. He can because he can. Sometimes, right? Sometimes a character just he does because he does.
What do you think of this? Like kind of almost an alien RFID.
It's a little bit out of left field. I mean, I don't. It makes sense that this, because again, it's so easy to be like, well, why wouldn't they just drop bombs down, and why wouldn't they just, aliens smart enough to create interdimensional rifts would have some kind of security. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. So, I mean, the explanation is a little, all right, whatever. You just kind of came up with something. It's like throwing the word quantum on things. I think of a Mass Effect, that you've got to have the right, you got to have the Reaper signature to go through the Omega 4 relay type thing. I do like this guy's design.
Literally what I was thinking of.
Yeah. So it's the concept I'm totally fine with, because obviously aliens who can do this level of whatever would not be stupid.
Yeah, they're gonna have a firewall in place.
Yeah,
they should have figured that part out already.
Yeah, just
you have to have the yellow key card.
Yes. I do. Okay. I just know like this movie. I like the blades on Stryker.
Yeah. Okay, here's your sword.
Yep. Aww.
But like, bye sword.
Yep.
They cripple Gypsy pretty fast at the beginning of this thing.
Well, I think they kind of needed to, in a way, because they showed it being so effective that I think that the audience would have been, well, and we have another one.
Yeah.
I mean, one, I think that they give it some stakes. I think that if they had let, like, they've already shown this, right? They've already, this is nice, the whole lava vent.
Yeah, using the lava vent.
That was good. That's good. But I mean,
Yeah,
because
great
they
moment.
showed the audience how effective that weapon was, I think it was a good move to kind of handicap it right away, because the audience would have expected Gypsy to just be crazy effective all of a sudden.
Yeah. It's super effective.
Nope, you're missing one now. Although, again, we conveniently have this. I like
Yeah.
just the whole.
It's
No,
so stupid, but I love it.
well, it's
They're using its own momentum, but they make it a little bit rough that way.
well, they also make it where, like, you're still, even with the sharpest knife, you're still gonna have to, like, there's physics at work. Newton can just take a vacation.
Mhm. Like, what is this? Star Wars?
But I wish that Stryker's blades had a moment here, because they look cool. I love when they unfold and just kind of that whole thing. And I wish they had a hero shot with it and the blades really doing something cool, because I think that's it right there. You get one little hit in, and then
Yeah.
well, I
Because
think
those are the right kind of blades
they
that I was
stab it
talking
here.
about.
Yeah,
They're a little bit shorter,
yeah, and on yeah.
Yeah, armpits, which would be a great place to actually hit, because
Well, physics demand.
that's where weak spots are going to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, the physics demand that an armpit would be a weak spot, because you have to be able to move, and anything heavy and plated would, by its very nature, not be flexible. I mean, those are kind of Anyways,
And in one of Guillermo del Toro's previous movies, Blade 2, he focuses on the physiology of an evolved vampire as having the primary weak spot being underneath the arm.
Yep.
And that's how he dies at the end.
well, and I mean, almost every armor conceived by man, that's a weak spot.
Yeah.
I can't think of a single exception where you haven't. If you take it away as a weak spot, you immediately lose maneuverability. I mean, that's just that is the trade-off.
Mm-hmm. And here we have...
Of course, you do have the cliche here of the destruction is held off just long enough to have one last little speech,
Little heart-to-heart.
Yeah, it's kind of the old anime trope of you get that moment in the middle of a fight to kind of collect your thoughts and reflect on your life before you take your last punch, kind of a thing.
Yeah, but there's no, dramatically zooming in on somebody's eye, and it's, throbbing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm really annoyed at certain anime tropes.
It's okay.
I don't dislike anime, but I love to make fun of anime.
We got it. For the lady.
Yeah. So, now I'm watching this because this is a good moment.
Yeah,
it is that pause, it's that lull, but it's effective.
And
makes you feel things.
It is, and there's a reason why this has been done so many times, because you want to find a way to have an emotional moment in the middle of a fight. Because if it just keeps going at breakneck speed and doesn't have any moment like this, it's it's not. I mean, as human beings, we want these, whether they're realistic or not. We still want these moments.
Yeah.
And of course she gets her one last little.
Now,
a nuke underwater would be crazy effective because the nuke's main destructive energy comes from the compressive force it creates. So you think air is an effective compressive wave. I love here that the water literally is gone for a minute. Well, not a minute, a couple seconds, because that is what would happen. A nuclear force would be able to actually move the water out of the way for a minute, even underwater. I just love that they got the physics of that right. It's great.
Yeah, look at that water simulation. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's so good.
But one of the things about it, because the nuke, you're right, its power is increased, but its power is increased, but words.
Well, its radius,
its range is decreased.
Radius would be very decreased because you're still getting the same amount of energy release, right, from the detonation, but But yeah, I mean, and that's why, a nuke is designed for air detonation. I mean, that's where it's optimized, and they're less effective in space. They're more effective in a concentrated area underwater, but we don't shoot things underwater. The fact this thing is still alive is
anymore.
Wait, what do you think?
I think that it works, given that they've already established that they killed these things in the past with nukes. I think that they would have nuclear resistant kaiju. especially a category 5 like this one. Strongest they've ever had.
Yeah.
It makes sense that it would have some defenses against that type of weapon.
Yeah, that does make
And
sense.
also, for those of you who may not have known, nuclear bombs don't actually go off when they hit the ground. They go off about half a mile above the ground.
Yeah, it's air detonation. Yep.
Airburst.
Airburst, yep. Yeah. A nuke, actually, if it went off right on the ground, would be way less effective. I do love that they have, like, basically their Iron Man chest weapon here.
Yeah. Well, they've already established that they have heat venting.
Cooling
heat venting.
Coolant.
Well, no, they did the cooling venting, but when they were falling, they used a heat venting through the front in order to arrest their momentum.
Yep.
And they do that there as like an improvised weapon, very similar to the coolant previously.
Yeah. I do appreciate,
this
again,
type
that
of stuff I'm not the biggest fan of.
Yeah, I mean,
But that's also just me. I'm weird.
it does get a little bit melodramatic here, but
Surrealism.
I like the fact that Gypsy being a bomb in itself is not out of left field, that it's been established, very early on. I do feel like there would definitely be redundant here's that this would be an oxygen. I don't buy that, just because human beings do not build things that go underwater without all kinds of crazy, redundant, very mechanically, just the kind of things that are completely independent of an internal system like this. We've been going underwater for a long time as a species, so it's out of all of the things that would be the main issue, I don't like it as the main issue. I think they should have come up with something else. Although your average audience member, you have to think of them, and they need to know immediately this is a problem, and that's a nice, easy kind of baseline. Whatever. Yeah. So,
like, I genuinely thought that they were going to kill him, and I'd be like, "That's an interesting move."
I never for a minute believed that he was going to die here. I was just like, no, because they want a sequel, and
as he floats down through the intergalactic butthole.
To me, this always felt a little bit Star Trek: The Motion Picture going into V'ger here.
No, I genuinely always thought that looked a lot like kind of the sphincter of a stomach muscle, which it's probably supposed to, which is very similar to a different sphincter that is related to your stomach. It looks like a acid trip butthole.
Yeah.
I do like that they don't have the like up to one, nick of time thing.
No, he just
cool.
Yeah, he just gets out. I like their feet, kind of the double feet thing. I also like the fact that he's trying to. They do get the little moment here of like, I get like a quick stare down with the aliens.
It feels almost like Independence Day aliens, but even there's that one scene where you see its face and it has the kind of faceplate retract. It's like it felt like an Independence Day alien that had sex with a monkey.
They definitely have kind of the Jesus pose there, the crucifixion pose. I mean, it's missing it's missing an arm, but you always got to have that, the sacrifice pose. It's funny to me that even people who are very much not Christians still go with that.
I mean, I think Guillermo del Toro is a Catholic.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, even if he isn't a practicing Catholic, he might very well have been raised that way and still honor kind of the traditions, because I know that's big in the Hispanic world.
Yeah, I was going to say he is Mexican, so I bet that he would have been raised it. Very statistically likely.
Okay, I do like these pod things. I like the just the design, the fact that they'd be very stable. You could see that thing, although I love the green dye. Mm-hmm. The fact that it pops the top, like ejects it, where like once this thing's open, you are screwed. But the idea that this would be a fast rise, it's pressurized, and that if it was stayed closed, this thing would be able to ride out, pretty intense oceanic
events. Yeah. I like the addition of the green dye because what?
Okay, there's no way unless this thing has like some kind of built-in buoyancy or whatever. That you would sink immediately in that suit. I'm just saying.
Okay, you say that.
I'm saying you could build something into it. You could have some kind of system in it that like makes it.
No, they did it.
Good.
That was a practical effect. They had the person swimming in the suit.
How?
You can go watch the behind the scenes. They have them in a pool.
How do they swim in those boots?
I don't know, but they built them to be able to swim. Maybe it's like a different version that's like hollowed out.
It's
got to
be a different version.
It's like
there's no way that's the hero version of the suit. There's no way.
Yeah.
I've tried to swim in tennis shoes.
You can go watch the.
Go ahead.
Like you can go watch behind the scenes, and straight up, they do that.
Okay. But right,
it's really cool.
Yeah, there is an alternate version of this film where they absolutely get down right here.
Yeah.
Or
and like
at
they don't
the
even
very
kiss
least,
or anything like that.
well, I was about to say there's a version of this film that would have like a CPR scene there where he's like needs to be brought back, so they use that as the the way to get them close.
Yeah. I hate CPR scenes almost as much as I hate.
Did he just promote himself?
Yeah, he just promoted himself. I mean, who's going to tell him no?
I love the big flip clock.
Oh, I love the big flip clock. I was going to talk about it earlier. Yeah, Hercules Hansen. What a name. I was going to say something related to the CPR scenes. I hate CPR scenes and defibrillator scenes.
Yeah.
God, defibrillator scenes make me mad.
The one scene that I genuinely find effective because it's so intense is the one in the abyss.
Haven't seen it.
Dude, what? Really?
Haven't seen it. Nope.
Okay. We're getting that on the list, man.
But yeah, like that right there, in any other movie, with any other like self-restraint, they would have been making out right there.
Yeah.
The
whole gratuitous helicopters fly over thing too is just all of this. That subtitle is just literally said dramatic music plays.
Well, okay. Are you familiar with Ramin Djawadi?
No.
Ramin Djawadi. He did the music in this. Dude is like low key one of the best out there. Like I go on and on about Michael Giacchino because I love him. James Newton Howard. Big fans of them because I really do respect Hans Zimmer, but his style isn't my favorite. He doesn't do themes very well. But Djawadi, because I can never remember his first name, I had to look at it. Dude, like low-key fantastic. Lots of TV shows. House of the Dragon, Fallout, Jack Ryan, Westworld, which is just fantastic. He did the music for The Eternals, which is quite good. One of the things I defend about that movie, the Gears of War games, Game of Thrones, like dun 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 dun
Yeah,
dun dun.
that
That's him. He
Okay.
also did Iron Man.
Really?
You can hear it in here. In fact, we've done a lot of movies so far that he's done the music for, including like Warcraft and Clash of the Titans.
Okay. Yeah,
So he's talented. He's one of John Williams' like understudies.
Okay. Because I mean,
Not
yeah,
John Williams, Hans Zimmer.
Okay, I would say because the music in this is very good. I love like the closest I think there is to a theme is this. Yeah. And it's definitely
Very Avengers-esque.
Oh yeah.
sequence.
Well, this end sequence to me is very, the MCU is kind of, you kind of had
Your MCU is showing.
Yeah, it had repopularized this style of end credit sequence. It definitely didn't invent it, but it kind of brought it back into popular, just pop culture for a while.
Yeah.
Although
Very much so.
anytime I see a diorama, this is where I'm going to go, into my video game roots. The marketing for Halo 3 and its diorama.
Finish the fight. Yeah.
Oh, see, he's alive. Even though
I
there's
know, right?
no way he would have suffocated.
The suffocation, but also given what they've already established about the acidic ammonia nature of the kaiju blood, Like, he'd be half melted. He's getting cancer. Stuff's radioactive. I hate this little rap song that they've got going on here. It's called Drift.
Oh, whenever there's an original song, I'm assuming this is an original song written for this movie that's named after something in the movie. It's almost like, I think the only memorable song, and I'm not even sure. No, I'm sure it's not good, but it was definitely a thing at the time. Was when Will Smith wrote the Men in Black song. Will Smith.
Here comes Men in Black.
But it was very 90s-esque hip hop for sure. So.
Yeah. And didn't he do the same thing for the Bad Boys movies?
No, he did it for Wild West.
That was it. Oh, yeah. God, movie.
Which was a bad song and a bad movie, and so bad. Didn't he?
That movie, okay.
Didn't he turn down The Matrix to do that movie?
Yes, he turned down The Matrix to do that movie. That movie is so awkwardly horny. Like, it's weird.
Oh, gosh. I've probably seen that movie 3 or 4 times, honestly, just for random reasons, not because it's good, but oh gosh, it's bad. It's so bad.
Yeah, no, very much agree.
Oh, gosh.
Unlike this movie.
Yeah, but to say like a weird little rabbit trail there. Oh gosh. Oh no, this movie is great. This is the kind of movie that if I still don't quite understand why this didn't do better. Because this is one of those movies that I feel like kind of has everything that an audience says. Although the hard part, and this is, talk about a catch-22. Because it is very difficult to get a movie-going audience in the last 20 to 30 years to go turn out to an original film, to something that's not a known thing, where they don't either, I guess, it used to be you went to see the actor. And even then, if you go back and you look at the grosses for those movies from that era, they weren't massive. But then again, the budgets were under control, so they were still hits because they didn't have to make $1 billion to be a hit. When you have this level of film, it's like you want to do something original, but to do it justice, you have to spend so much money that in order for it to be a big hit, it's got to make the kind of money that only IPs make, like established IPs make. And unless you are the one anomaly, which is Chris Nolan, where your name as the director is the IP, you're really stuck as a filmmaker. And I'm not sure what the solution is to that, because on one hand, we like to blame studios for not being willing to take creative risks, but there's also the fact that the audience historically does not reward creative risk financially. And so what are you going to do? Because, you if you want the movie to look good, which is a big part of making the movie good. I mean, this movie, if you took this movie and you made the effects mediocre, it would have killed this movie. This movie, if everything was exactly the same, but the effects were...
This would have been like Atlantic Rim, which is its
is that a real thing?
Yes, it is. You know those movies? Yes. You know those...
I had no idea.
Studio that always makes they made stuff like Transmorphers when Transformers came out.
Okay.
There's this one particular studio. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but whenever there's a really big movie that's like a big IP, they think it's going to be huge, they make a low budget, crappy version of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And this one had one called Atlantic Rim. I think it's still on Netflix.
Okay. So this movie made $411 million worldwide,
on a budget of $190 million. Though.
That's what's hard. That's a totally respectable in any other type of filmmaking besides the only other historical comparison to the big effects heavy movies are the big historical epics from classic Hollywood that would cost that's the only other type of film historically that has such a massive price tag attached to it that you have to make an obscene amount of money to make it worth it. But those were much more rare back in the day. Your Cleopatras,
and they would also do consistent. They'd also do consistent re-releases of those movies, and people would go pay to see it. The price of a whole admission ticket again.
Well, because the only way you can see the movie is it would come out in theaters every year. Because how else are you going to watch it? It was I mean, I'm not sure if you remember it like in real time, but I'm sure you at least have heard of it, that it used to be a big deal when a big blockbuster movie had its debut on network television. Like when NBC would get Jurassic Park. Like you could watch it on Channel 3 with ads. Because the VHS cost $60 and you had to have a player. And it was, so it's weird because we're so used to the accessibility now. It's so just normal that it's weird to think about, not being able to just watch a movie right away. But anyways, it's, so this movie made $411 million. That's a lot of tickets sold. Like that's but to make the movie look as good as it did, which is a massive part of why the movie was so good, you had to spend $190 million, which means this movie in Hollywood math, this movie broke even. It didn't make any money. I mean, because you have to double your budget to begin to break even between advertising costs and the cut that goes to the theaters. So it's hard. It's frustrating because I don't know what the solution is, because you can't force people to go to see movies. You can't force a publicly traded company to be financially irresponsible. As much as we rave about it on Reddit.
There is a solution.
Well,
there is a solution.
That would work.
It's just kind of an unfortunate one.
Go for it.
Is that you need to be able to make visual effects that are good cheaper.
Well, yeah.
That's the thing. That's the linchpin of it, because I've heard this argument before. I've had this discussion. The way that things are working is that you need to be able to make a good-looking movie for cheaper, which is one of the reasons why there's a lot of fear around the AI thing right now.
Yeah.
Because that will theoretically allow people to make big blockbuster-looking stuff cheaper.
Well, and it's funny you say. I would literally just getting ready to say that same thing. The solution to that problem is AI. But that also brings with it a whole bunch of other problems. And so I agree with you, but that's still not a solution. That wasn't a solution that was possible when this was made. It's not like you can't, but again, there's no way you could have made this movie look this good for less money. So what was Del Toro supposed to do?
Yeah, there's also today, there is at least the availability of things like Unreal Engine 5, in which you have the ability for people to start making movies that have good effects for cheaper, because the tools are becoming better, the tools are becoming more accessible, and there is that level of hope. But it's just coming out at the moment in which we're sitting there going, "Hey, AI, what you doing over there, girl?"
Yeah.
And that's a problem in and of itself.
Because if this movie had been 120 million, it would have been the studio would have considered it a massive success.
And they took a risk of greenlighting a sequel, but then they made the mistake of hiring the wrong director to make that sequel. The sequel was not good.
Yeah.
And now we're all just really sad.
Yeah. It's funny, we mentioned Matt Damon earlier. In this podcast randomly, and he just popped in my mind again. Did you see the Hot Ones episode with him by any chance?
No, I did not see the Hot Ones with Matt Damon.
So he brought up an interesting point. The other big thing that's changed about why you got sequels and why you had studios being willing to take risks was, and this is where this is the other big elephant in the room for the Hollywood balance sheet, is streaming services. Because he was saying that he could point to half of the movies that he's made that are considered like very successful, financially profitable films. He said because you could count on physical media sales, you knew that was part of it. That if a movie broke even, that was a much bigger deal back then, because then that meant you were going to make tons of money on the backside, versus now if a movie breaks even, your potential money, licensing it to Netflix, or if it's a studio that's got its own streaming platform, then in effect you're just selling the movie to yourself, which I know, accountants can make that look like it's profitable for the IRS, but it's not actually profitable at all in real money terms. And so it's the math has changed, where breaking even used to be golden, and now breaking even is okay, well, let's try it. Especially if you don't have something else that will make you money. You don't have toys you're selling or a McDonald's promo deal where you're putting your stuff in a Happy Meal, something like that.
Okay, okay.
And anyways, it makes the financial part of it more challenging these days.
Okay, right there, you hit the nail on the head. One of the reasons why they invested so much in this movie, okay, is that this was the golden age of the franchise. They wanted a franchise. They're like, look at how good Avengers did. Let's do something really interesting. Let's give it to an auteur director. I would call Guillermo del Toro an auteur.
I would. Yeah.
Like we take a risk on this, and we do something where we can produce that golden goose that is merchandising.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, the stuff you can do with these freaking robots and these kaiju. Some of the stuff that they released was gorgeous. You had the cheap toys that were just like, okay, I see the resemblance. Some of the collectibles, the models, the more expensive toys, the fully actuating dolls with a retractable sword and stuff. Damn! If this franchise had been more responsibly handled, oh goodness gracious, I'd probably have 3D printed several of these things and painted them by now.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm genuinely
I kind of want
surprised
to do that, in fact.
they didn't.
Cherno Alpha.
I'm really surprised that they didn't create like a solid video game of this, because it really screams
Dude, doesn't it?
good. It's sitting there waiting for a good game. So, but I mean, as we could go to a whole video game right here about, you think it's easy to make a good game because there's great examples, just like making a good movie. Like, why is it so hard? Just look at the people who've done it. But it, if you look at the actual market, it apparently is very difficult to do. There's a reason why they're more rare than not.
Yeah. Anyway, we should wrap this up.
We should.
I'm just gonna ask if there's something that you would change about this movie that you think would improve it. What would it be?
There's nothing big. There's nothing I would actively want to change in any kind of major way. I do wish that there was this is a movie where I do wish there was a director's cut that had about, say, somewhere between 8 and 15 minutes more footage that delves into the precursors and motivations and kind of the nerdier lore side that's there. A little more exposition about the Jaegers and, kind of the development of them, and, a little more just that kind of dialogue. I'm not saying that
lucky for you, they have prequel graphic novels and comic books that were written by the actual writer of the original screenplay that are actually pretty darn good and well liked.
Well, good for them. But I would love to have seen, like I said, I definitely don't think it's a sure thing that would have made the movie better. But I definitely would enjoy seeing a director's cut that has that extra footage in it. Other than that, just a few tiny little tweaks. I would have. It was a great movie with it. So we alluded to this earlier. I think you either could have given Charlie Hunnam a different direction as far as the way he played his character, or possibly had somebody else in there. It definitely didn't ruin the movie by any stretch. But if I was gonna pick one thing to say, like, you could have done better there, and it definitively would have made the movie better, that's the one thing I would point to.
Yeah, my criticism was going to be, if I was going to change, if I had the ability to change a couple of things in here, one of them would be changing the lead actor.
Who would, if you had like a wish list, who would be on that?
Oh, at 2013?
See, I think. Well, he was.
Pine could do it.
I was just about to say he was in the middle of something at the moment, but Chris Evans could totally have done it.
Chris Evans, I don't know. I think that there needs to be a little bit of angst to Raleigh.
You don't think
that
Chris Evans has really? That's actually
Chris Evans has less angst and more mope.
I've always felt that. Yeah, I've always felt that the weight he carries as Cap, being distant from Peggy and kind of all that, I always thought that he acted that really well, and I always took that as like somebody who has like emotional weight on his shoulders, and he did that well for in the environment of a comic book movie.
I think around this time, Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Ooh,
You know who he is?
yeah, oh yeah, I know he is. Yeah, he could.
Yeah,
Well, he was.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah, that would have been good. Chris Pine could have absolutely. Chris Pine is fantastic. He's man. Okay, we got to wrap this up, but he's an actor who we will get to the Star Trek reboots at one point. You like them more than I do. I love Chris Pine. I just don't like him as Kirk. But he's a great actor. He's a way better actor than people give him credit for. He's been in some smaller movies that he's just phenomenal in. And then, of course, Dungeons and Dragons, which we recorded last year. He was so good in that. So, yeah.
Okay.
That would have been good.
No, I very much agree. So that'd be my thing. I would change the lead actor.
Yeah.
But I love Idris Elba. I really liked the actress for Mako, Rinko Kikuchi. She's not in a lot. Just wouldn't necessarily expect her to be. Looks like she's in a lot of Japanese stuff and things like that, which makes sense. But I thought that she was one of the strengths of this movie. I thought that she was competent, but also had that kind of like she was the cute, adorable Asian female lead, but they didn't just keep it at that. They made her capable and have an interesting character thing that wasn't just about like take me seriously, because people did take her seriously.
Yeah.
And I like that they did that. Her arc was about like overcoming trauma and stepping up, and not just like overcoming trauma in the way that a lot of people do it these days, which is like kind of overly idealized. This was literally like you lean on somebody and you push through it when you need to push through it. And I really like that.
I'd agree. But with that,
so,
let's
we'll
be back.
My final thought is that I would call this a masterpiece of B-movie schlock.
Yeah. If you're
like,
if you this is a movie that if you know what it is and you appreciate what it is about as good of an example of that as you could possibly have. I would agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's great. I love it, and you guys should love it too.
Yeah.
Because I said so.
Every movie that we deem good, you guys need to agree with us. That's no. Speaking of which, we actually would love to hear any opinions, even if they're contrary opinions, in the comments. Always feel free to reach out, because we will be back with strong opinions next week with the sequel to this movie. So look forward to that.
So great, so great. And I'm going to say goodbye because I have to go to the bathroom. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
There's doors and corners, kid. If you don't clear the room, if you don't come in slow,